and welcome back to PTPOP on a Mind Revolution, the show where we challenge and explore the deeper layers of art, truth, and consciousness. Today, I have the absolute privilege of speaking with Jeanne Marie Spicuzza, a brilliant, fearless filmmaker, writer, actress, and true visionary. Hailing from Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Jeanne Marie is the mind behind the intense psychological thriller The Scarapist, which not only stunned audiences but won Best Picture at the Verein Deutscher Prickerund Filmmaker Film Awards in Germany. I think I butchered that, Jeanne. I'm sorry. Her haunting and poetic film Night Rain continues to receive critical acclaim for its emotional power and stunning imagery. I've seen it. It's really something. Jeanne's work is raw, deeply personal, and unflinchingly honest. I'm beyond excited to have her on the show today to talk about her journey, her creative fire, and why the world needs independent voices like hers, now more than ever. Let's dive in. Jeanne, welcome to the show. Hey, Jeanne. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah, I can hear you great.
Okay, good. Okay, because I saw this mute come up at some point in the corner of my screen, and I was like, "Wait, I'm not muted, am I?" So no, I'm not muted.
Oh, good. Yeah,
I love your environment.
Oh, do you? This is my. It's kind of based off of an old horror host.
Your inspiration space. I see a picture of Bill Murray there.
Yeah, Bill Murray.
It's like the Ghostbusters era.
Yeah, I've got The Odd Couple with Jack Lemmon and Walter Matthau.
Oh, great! And then is this like a communion style alien over there?
This?
Yeah.
This is my mask. I don't know if you've seen my Midnight Mutant Theater.
I've seen some of it, but and I see the mug back there behind you too.
Oh, you got good eyes. Yeah, that's my mom's sorority mug when she was in college.
Beautiful. And then there's an alien mug on the other side. Ooh, and look at that lamp, that round lamp. Oh, this is nice.
Well, that's actually a moon.
Oh, that one, and then the alien one. Yeah, that's beautiful.
The toy.
We had the strawberry moon recently, as they like to call it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So how are you?
I'm good. And I've got Metaluna Mutant here from this planet Earth, I think it's called.
Oh.
I've got a bunch of little 1950s creature
when we start talking about creature features and what got you into movies, we're gonna have a lot of fun with that.
Oh yeah,
really fun stories about that because my dad.
Really?
So we'll be able to talk about that stuff. It'll be fun.
Did your dad make movies like that?
No.
Oh, okay.
But there is a story behind these things for sure in relation to my dad.
Oh, yeah. Excellent. That's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I think my dad, more than I realized at the time, I think my dad had a lot to do with my early thoughts about movies, for sure.
I'm sitting here adjusting my lights. Oh, really? I was thinking, boy, I hope your dad didn't produce some of these movies that I make fun of. Because some of these movies are so bad. It's like, I don't know how they got distribution or a company to produce them.
It is truly amazing. But then you look at what Ed Wood accomplished too. Somehow he always found people to give him money repeatedly, despite everything. So,
and there's always a theme about brains, nuclear war, and aliens for some reason. I don't know.
Fun stuff. Yeah. This will be fun because, you do realize one thing, that if you have any contact with things like creature features, especially the more obscure ones, then you know that you've got to be some kind of cinephile.
Yeah.
Because that's just that I like to think of it as kind of geekery. I mean, I'm a geek. It's that kind of geekery, that kind of nerdiness. Like, it comes out of a certain passion. You have to have a certain passion to appreciate it and get involved in it.
Oh, yeah. For sure.
On some level, for sure, yeah.
It's really funny because, I don't know, you said we were just going to go with the flow today. So I've already recorded an introduction separately, so we don't have to do it now.
Okay.
I kind of do it, or I got to clean it up. But the background is kind of inspired by these guys in Cleveland from the 60s and 70s and 80s. They had a show called Big Chuck and Houlihan, and they would show Dracula and the werewolf, and then at commercial break they'd have little comedy skits and they'd have these background with all their monster movie posters behind them. So this is kind of inspired by my nerdiness of loving those guys as a kid.
Yeah, when you're talking about that is familiar. I have a friend who's so into B horror, B monster movies, and I remember him, we started conversations about it, and we got into things like Attack of the Killer Clowns and Attack of the Killer Tomatoes. And at one point he held up this DVD, because some of these things, never made it to streaming. So he had this DVD collection, and he's like, here's one I bet you've never seen. And he holds it up. And I was like, oh yeah, Satan's Cheerleaders. I'm like, yeah, I saw that when I was in high school. And he's like, you're kidding. And I'm like, no. Like this is going to be a whole conversation. Well, we'll just go with it. But yes. I mean, so, well, are we just starting? Are we just going with it?
Yeah, let's just go. I mean, okay. I was going to have it all structured. And after talking to you, I'm like, why don't we just wing it and see what happens? I do an introduction, like we're going to talk about you and your film career and the Scarapist and Night Rain and all that stuff. The one thing, well, I don't want it to be like, did you go to college to do this and all that stuff? Unless you want to go down that formal path, we'll
just go wherever. Let's just wherever you want to go. Hey, I'm gonna say you take the reins, because it's your program, and I'm here to be a guest and to be with you through it.
Well, I'm so happy you're here, because when we talked on the phone, well, let me back up a little bit to tell everybody how we met. I'm in Ohio, and Jeanne you're in Los Angeles, right?
Correct.
And I found you because I made my first film, and I was searching around Instagram for other filmmakers, and I discovered, I think, the Scarapist, and I've discovered your work. And then I stumbled upon this photograph of you posing in front of a train depot called Angel's Flight. Mm-hmm. And I wrote to you and I said, I just love this photograph. It reminds me of an Edward Hopper painting. Can I do a painting of it? Because I dabble in painting. And you said, sure. And I did this painting, and I made a documentary of me making it. I sent the whole thing to you, and you loved it. And I was really horrified of sending this to you, because I saw an interview with you where you said you had a stalker. And I'm like, oh no, she's going to think I'm stalking her or something. And my wife is like, just send it to her. She'll either not respond or she'll like it, or something like that. So we just kind of hit it off and started talking about this documentary I made, which it's a small 8-minute documentary, which is posted on her website. Jeanne's website is Seasons and Muse Studios, plural, studios.plural.com. Seasons and Muse plural.com. And my film is on there, and along with all of her productions. So that's kind of where we met up, I guess you would say. But what I wanted to do is just kind of find out how you got started in filmmaking, because what I've noticed is your production quality is just fantastic. Your camera work, the sound, the people you work with, and it's very well done productions. And how did you go from never doing a film to making a Scarapist and all of your other productions?
That's I like the question, because it's almost like one of these provocative questions where it's like, how far down that rabbit hole would you like to go?
I was thinking that as I asked it. Yeah.
I'd like to go pretty far down the rabbit hole, but not spend too much time getting to the point, the core of the question.
Okay.
But I when I was little, and we had this summer home in Lauderdale Lakes, Wisconsin, which isn't far from, people into music will know Alpine Valley. People who know vacation spots near Illinois will know Lake Geneva. So my parents and my aunt owned a cottage there. And my dad, over the summers, because he was a guidance counselor, my mother had been a teacher. He was the first person to ever win to garner 5 letters in a college sport, which was for wrestling. So he also coached wrestling, but he had summers off. We had summers off, and we'd go to my parents and aunt's cottage for the summers. And I remember that he would watch these creature features like The Mummy Returns, and I wasn't supposed to be watching them, but I would sit on this landing, and you could hear it was very creaky. So I had to be really, really, quiet and really, careful. And I'd sit and I'd watch them from the stairway, watching down at the television.
Did he know you were there?
No, he usually didn't know I was there. And I would have, I'd have a hard time sleeping, and I'd have nightmares and things like that. And my parents were like, what's going on with you? But I always, I don't know. I was really fascinated with motion picture, and I was already painting and writing at a very young age. And then I remember when I was a student of philosophy, my friend Len introduced me to the European production, but it was with some American cast, the adaptation of Umberto Eco's Il Nome and Dolorosa, The Name of the Rose. So I was like, wow, you can do this with philosophy. And being a single mom at that time, I was trying to be practical, which, I was in philosophy. So how practical was I already? I was a novelist, and I was a poet already, and all these things, writing plays. And I tried to actually move away from the arts and become interested in the serious disciplines like psychology, possibly teaching or something like that. But there were students in the photography and film departments at UW-Milwaukee who would always say, I want you to be my photographic subject. I want you to act in my film.
Wow.
Well, I'm not a professional, and I'm not a theater major. No, we want you in it. So one of my first acting jobs was as a student. I was still being paid. Mm-hmm. And I portrayed Stella in a student version of Streetcar Named Desire.
Yeah.
Now, before that, I'd already done theater and things like that growing up. And again, it's like, it's not something I necessarily sat down and said, this is what I'm going to do. But it seemed like so many things in my life were already and always kind of pushing me in that direction.
Oh, wow.
So when I was faced with the decision of whether or not to pursue philosophy as a profession, and I'd already had experience as a professional artist performing, and still being asked, can I film you? Can I do that? Would you be in this? And that was always happening. And so when you mention production values, it's interesting because I have to say that I think one of the reasons for that, I've worked with such talented people over the years. I think they've come to me, and I think I've been very blessed that way.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very blessed because I've been mentored by some of the best people I've ever known in the disciplines that I've been in. And so ultimately, when it was a choice between pursuing philosophy and pursuing the arts and particularly motion picture, and making a movie about Hildegard von Bingen, who's this remarkable woman from the 12th century. And my research on her was not accepted because she's not considered traditional philosophy. And I by then was so in love with her. And so I took my screenplay, the first screenplay I ever wrote. I just hauled off to Los Angeles, and I started becoming in contact with other people, and very interesting people. And that screenplay was a semifinalist in the Nickel Fellowships, which is Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. In fact, an assistant to Gary Marshall, we were dining one time, and he said,
Penny Marshall.
Gary Marshall's assistant at the time.
Oh, wow.
And he said to me, we were meeting about screenwriting, and he said, well, the first script you ever write, I hear that you just junk it. You just throw it in the garbage. And I said, oh, the first screenplay I ever wrote was a semifinalist in the Nichols. He's like, okay, so forget about that. Just you're like, there are no rules. There are no rules. I think it's the passion and the willingness. Yes, it can really help obviously, Greta Gerwig she's done some things right. I mean, she went to the Tisch School and she got an agent quickly, and Viola Davis went to Juilliard and got an agent quickly. But I don't think that's the end all be all. It's not the only path there. There are so many paths in the arts. I think that's one of the things I love about the arts, is that there are so many variant paths for people.
Oh, yeah.
No, I didn't go to film school, but I received a really great education from a lot of my friends who did.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Taught me very well. I was mentored by, David Lynch, and even Julie Dash.
David Lynch too? Wow.
Yeah, she taught me a lot. It helps to be a good writer. Being a good writer draws people. It's hard, I suppose, to find good writing. Mm-hmm. And acting, I started acting at a very young age. So I didn't have a plan to direct or produce per se. But then when I discovered that when you're an actor who writes, it's almost like an automatic that you start producing. And from there, you start directing. It kind of it starts following. It follows from one to the other to the other. So it's just an interesting journey.
Wow. So it started very young for you. And it's funny, we have a similar experience of the hiding on the staircase. When I was 3, I was supposed to be in bed, and I would sneak downstairs in this old colonial house in Cleveland Heights, Ohio, and hide behind a couch, try to watch this Big Chuck Houlihan and Johnny Carson, and I'd always get yelled at, "Go back to bed,"
And, you got caught? You got busted?
Oh, I always got caught, yeah. There's a little more to the story than that, but I'll leave it all out. But they always caught me because I was always trying to sneak down there in my sleepers. I had those little sleepers on the feet, yeah, with the rubber bottoms.
And we have to clarify that we're both kind of Midwesterners.
Yeah.
Border on Mid-Atlantic in Ohio. But, those were things that we wore as kids, the sleepers. Oh,
I know.
Sleepers or sleeping blankets where you had the feet.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
They were very warm, but it did make it hard to escape quickly, because they weren't supposed to be slippery. Yeah. They had rubber bottoms, but sometimes they were slippery.
I fell down the stairs once, running down the stairs from my brother, and I stepped on one of the toes and went tumbling. But mine were lime green. I'll never forget the color of them.
I'm just glad you didn't crack a skull or anything.
No, I bit my tongue. That was it.
Ooh.
And it was just
Did you guys have wood floors? That sounds like a wood floor.
Yeah, we had wood staircase. Wood yeah.
That was very common in Midwest and East Coast homes. You still had a lot of the old wood.
Yeah.
Like that. So less of the carpeting and I'm glad you didn't.
Oh no. I'm fine. No, it was just a funny thing that you said that, because I've never heard anybody else say they snuck downstairs to watch TV. Because we come from that era. I think you must come from the era where it was the old tube TV set. And my brother had this old my mom and dad had a black and white TV set till 1978. My brother would take it upstairs, and we'd watch these old monster movies with the lights turned out. And I'd be scared, because he was 8 years older than me. And he thought it was funny that I was scared of the werewolf.
And it is so scary. I mean, when you're young, you're trying to kind of attune yourself to what's going on. And those, I remember having a little black and white set, and that was perfect for watching. And not only the old creature features like The Mummy and Dracula, but I also used to like to watch, from the time I was 10 and 12, I started watching the old film noir, Soaring Wrong Number was one of the first suspense films I watched as a young person. I remember Wait Until Dark, starring Audrey Hepburn and Alan Arkin. Amazing. She did such a great job. He did too. And I remember watching Psycho. Alfred Hitchcock. That really changed my life. In fact, it changed my sister's too. My older sister was taking a shower, and I thought it would be funny. It was more funny for me than for her to sneak up on her with playing Psycho. I guess it was right.
No.
And I would make that. She was
did she think it was real, or?
She was really freaked out.
Oh, wow.
She understood that it was me just being me, but she was not. I thought it was funny
Yeah.
She definitely didn't think it was funny.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, I was a weird kid. So, I mean, movies definitely made a very deep impression on me.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was built for 9 to 5s. Whenever I worked 9 to 5 jobs, and it wasn't very often, something always pulled me out of it. I'd come, oftentimes I'd be riding a bus or something, and maybe I was coming from classes or wherever, and I'd show up 20 minutes late or 40 minutes late, and the manager would be like, well, you can't just do that. And I'd say, well, it only takes me 20 minutes or 25 minutes to take what it takes some people 45 minutes or an hour 15. So what difference does it make? I had a weird frame of mind that way. I definitely was not built for that kind of structure.
Oh yeah.
I really admire people who are. Really, truly do. But I'm one of them.
I'm the same way. I worked in the corporate world for 20 years, and I'd always be sitting there drawing pictures or daydreaming. And I remember one of the last decent jobs I had, I was drawing a picture of somebody in the meeting, and a girl next to me, and I'm not really a great drawer, but she goes, wow, did you draw that? She's like, you shouldn't be doing this. You should be working in art. And those words, this is 30 years ago, have inspired me to get where I am today. I don't know whatever happened to her, but I always wanted to call her up and find her and thank her, because I couldn't stand the corporate world. I couldn't stand sitting at a desk. I was always in another world, dreaming about music or something. I didn't know anything about movies at the time. I'm nowhere near as intelligent about movies as you are. I made a couple of documentaries, but you really know your producers and directors and films. I'm just new to it in the last 5 years. So,
well, and yeah, I mean, I was going to say that I think that it's something that's kind of followed me, and it was almost like, it was almost compulsive. It was almost like something I was very inspired by. And at one time, it's funny, I remember telling one of my cinematographers, what is the big deal after all about Citizen Kane? And he's like, what's the big deal about Citizen Kane? First movie ever shot that included, broke the fourth wall. Explain to me, and he was this amazing cinematographer. He worked on my movie Field Day. Prior to that, he was one of the interns in cinematography on the movie The Terminal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, these are people who came in my life, and it was like, what a blessing. They taught me a lot. I think it helped me. I think it helped me see things a little differently, though. I get a little bit. And by the way, my stalkers are not only just like people who bug you. You're talking about really, ever since about
you have multiple stalkers?
Yeah, I have more than one.
Lord.
I have more than one. I've had to alert the FBI field office. I have stalkers who are like professionals. I have stalkers who are literally like internationally renowned professionals.
Oh my God. I'm too lazy to be a stalker.
That's a whole other level. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I've been involved with a lot of politics. I wrote I wrote an article about the Committee for Presidential Debates and things like this, and supported a lot of third parties and independents. And as a result, I started getting some very strange things happening in my life. We'll say I don't really want to give them too much attention because I know they like that, probably.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
It might even incite them to do something from here. I've had websites hacked. I've had email hacked. I've had credit cards hacked. I've had really, really high level stalking.
Wow.
Yes. So I know that they enjoy that. And if that's what you're paid to do, I know, however ugly, that's your job. Yeah, it's I know the term gets used for many things, but for me, it's a whole other level. I found, though, you mentioned that, I wanted to come back to that when someone told you that your drawings were good. And you were saying to me, I remember you said to me, I'm not really a painter, but this is the painting that I made and the documentary I made about making it.
Yeah.
And I really was impressed. I really loved the way it flowed. The documentary, the mini doc, and I really was impressed by what you had created. And it never occurred to me from that photograph. And that's the amazing thing. I mean, and thanks to Mark Yanni, one of my key photographers, we work together quite often. Mm-hmm. And he was a photojournalist, which makes it really interesting. A lot of people who do photography might start in fashion photography. Not that there's anything wrong with that. One of our actors has worked in fashion and since has done a lot in fashion in Milan.
Sure.
But coming from a photojournalistic background is interesting. I mean, that's like people like Ouija and stuff like that came from these backgrounds. I know.
That film, the dead people.
Yeah, and Stanley Kubrick. You know, they started doing a lot of kind of what you might call grit photography or photojournalism. You know, and photographing like kind of journalistic realism and things like that. And it's interesting because their thinking is in terms of story, right off. It's not just how does this look, but what is it saying? And it makes sense to me that Mark would produce a photograph with me that would then propel you into a thought of like, what is this story behind that? I think that's really cool. And we hadn't said this to people. So the photography is promotional photography for an upcoming motion picture I'm doing called Making Angels. And so, of course, we're shooting at Angels Flight, which is a very historical railway in Los Angeles. In fact, I think it's the first funicular railway in existence, if I'm not mistaken.
Is it really?
I think so.
Okay.
And so I thought that was really cool, too, that you saw Hopper, because with my background, I'm also a watercolorist.
Wow.
And I've done both fine art and illustrative watercolor. So I'm very in tune to people like Homer and Hopper. And I just found it really interesting that you saw that. Yeah. And then you were inspired to create that. That's pretty amazing. It shows us that we must be on the right track when other people are inspired by something we do, and then we're inspired by them, and there's this symbiosis and relationship.
Well, I think it's even more interesting that you just happened to show up. I don't remember the story about that photo shoot, but you showed up on a day where it was you couldn't get to the other side, and you only could go to the side that I liked. Is that right? There was under construction or something?
It's along those lines. What happened was we were choosing what day to shoot. And I said to Mark, you know, we were thinking about, I think it was on a Thursday, actually, we were thinking about what day would make sense, because of course you're talking about downtown LA, you're talking people going back to school, so fewer tourists, hopefully, in theory. You don't know for sure. You're talking about people going to work and being at work. But when we got there, when we got to the site, and now this isn't the original site where Angel's Flight was located. It has been moved because, of course, Bunker Hill doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
It's what it was built for people traveling up and down Bunker Hill in Los Angeles. It was moved, and they had some issues with it, safety issues and things like that. So what they do, apparently, is every 7 years, they test this funicular railway. Now, they don't announce it. They don't announce when they're going to do it. And it's not on the same day every 7 years.
Okay.
So we could not have known this, but we get there. We get to the lower terminus that takes you up towards the ticket office and things like that. We're at the lower terminus, which is across from I think it's the Grand Market. And it says that they're closed. They're closed for testing that day, the one day out of 7 years, and it's not consistent. It happened to be that day. It was the Feast of St. Hildegard, and I thought, well, this is interesting. It turned out to be such a happy accident because even though we weren't able to film on the rail cars, we were able to film all around because no one was riding the cars, so no one was really around from top to bottom. That's why we were able to because normally you'd probably have a lot of people standing where I was standing and you wouldn't be able to get that shot. But because of this happy accident we didn't even anticipate, that's how we were able to get a lot of those shots. Do
you mind if I share a screen of the photograph? It's going to be from your channel. See if I can do this thing is show people what we're talking about here. Let's see if we can get.
It helps, to have the visual.
I don't know if you can see that. Is it on there? Oh, it's not on there yet.
Oh, yeah, there it is. This is I can see.
I think I've got it muted. I don't know if it's gonna. How do we play? Is it playing?
How much? I think if you go to that little arrow.
Over here.
Yeah, I think that's the thing that's going to.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. So it's doing there's one of my sketches.
There, yeah.
This is impromptu, but
somehow you were able to capture a real sense of this, not only visually, but story-wise and emotionally. And it is a very historic place. The color is really specific, as you noticed. It's got this, and some of that I did myself. The original images, I took those original images and I affected them so that they would look more 30s, because of course making images takes place in the 30s and the 90s. That's its period. I didn't know at the time that I chose that. I've since been told by historians of various disciplines, whether it be cosmetic historians or wardrobe historians or aesthetic historians or cultural historians, that apparently there is a lot of there are a lot of similarities between the 30s and the 90s that I was not aware of at the time.
The 1990s?
The 30s and the 90s, the 1930s and the 1990s.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either. Yeah. It was really an inspiration that I had when I wrote the screenplay. I started the screenplay back in 1998. It was a dream I had, and I woke from this dream, and I dreamt the characters, I dreamt the scenarios, I dreamt certain camera angles and shots, I dreamt the title, I dreamt locations, I dreamt almost the whole thing, and then just had to work out certain details. You mentioned Making Angels, the teaser. That's
Let me show that, because I just love this teaser. This where the camera's going through the whole theater, or the
Yes, yeah.
You mind if I show that? Is that for members only?
That's on the platform too.
Okay,
We've never released it before off the platform. There's a reason for that. I'll share with you in a minute the story behind it, or I can share it with you.
It's now. Okay to share it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Let's see here. I'm just going to mute it, and then play it.
And we can talk a little bit about this. So this is a very historical location in LA. This is called the Wilshire E. Bell Theater.
Okay.
And this is where we shot it. And when we shot it during the WGA strikes, right before before SAG also joined in the strikes.
Oh, that transition right there is phenomenal through the curtain.
Yeah. I
never saw that before.
That's my editor, who's also a videographer, Cynthia Sharp, and he feels he has not earned his right yet to call himself a cinematographer. He refers to himself as a videographer, which is pretty impressive, because I know cinematographers who think his work is spectacular, including Michelle Cantor, who founded Cinefem, who's in this video actually, as she portrays Dorothy Parker. This whole space is remarkable. Not only is it a theater, it is it was an educational facility for women. That was its primary purpose. This is the library. This whole space is remarkable.
Was this shot in one take? Or, well, maybe that one edit wasn't.
It wasn't shot in one take, although a lot of the footage that you're seeing from when it, before it transitions, like here, this is all shot in one take.
And so somebody has the camera on a stabilizer or a gimbal?
Cynthia and I are walking together with it. So
you did this. Okay.
We both did. I shared the vision with him, and we have a very interesting creative marriage. So we work very well. This is our third project working together, and it just works for us.
Yeah, I just saw this, and I was like so drawn into it. It was just like something out of The Shining, like following that little kid on the bicycle or the tricycle.
Yes, when he's riding through. Now those feet are Michelle Cantor, and getting that image is harder than people realize, because you actually aren't filming what people think, because otherwise you're seeing cameras. So the way you have to create that is very interesting.
You have to probably have it backwards, or have it look like walking through the frame of the mirror.
You have to, there are just certain ways you have to do it. It's very interesting. We had to study how to do it.
And then how it ends with you on stage here. This is just, it's just very powerful.
Thank you for bringing this up, because this has not really been seen outside of the platform. And there was a reason. That QR code is our nonprofit QR code through Cinefilm. When we created this, and I had already had plans to create it. I was scouting the location in January of 2023. Ironically, in an interesting twist of fate, back in the early 2000s, I was an extra. Well, I was supposed to be a featured player. I became an extra, uncredited, on a show called Providence.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Program that was shot there. I always remembered it. Also, one of the first jobs I ever did for a television, a Lifetime movie called Jackie's Back. Tim Curry was responsible for that. And I worked with him. That was one of my first projects in LA.
Wow.
Being a featured extra in a Tim Curry production. And they shot at that location. I never had forgotten that location. It really impressed itself upon me. Mm-hmm. Now, I went back to do some scouting in January, and of course, the strikes hit in May of that year. So we'd already prepared to film there. And so I said, well, we're going to have to do a couple of things here. We're going to have to shoot this without a script. And this is one of the reasons it turned out why it did. And I think it's a happy accident that it did, because it might have had more dialogue or more voiceover. So we really couldn't have that we were shooting it, because we were shooting it during the strikes. We couldn't release it on any AMPTP platforms, because that would have violated strike rules.
Oh.
So no script. Now, someone at the WGA said to me, but story can be script. I said, well, yeah, story can be script. But one thing we know about the movie industry or business is that it existed before there were screenplays. People just shot what stories they knew or things that they conceived of. So while I would agree that script is story isn't always script.
Well, so the silent movies too.
Yeah. So if you're shooting without a script, technically you're not really violating, you're not violating the precepts. Plus you're not releasing it on AMPTP platforms, even things like YouTube. So it was one of the first things that we had exclusively on the platform besides Night Rain, was the Making Angels teaser. And so I'm glad that you enjoyed it. I appreciate it too, because we had to film it in this unique way, kind of like we had to do our photo shoot at Making Angels. It's funny when life imposes certain challenges on you, mm-hmm. It can really push you in an interesting direction, because those perceived limitations push you into creativity you didn't necessarily think of.
Yeah, you've got to think on your feet. You've got to improvise.
Yeah, and which a lot of movie making is, because you were really surprised. I remember when I said to you, with Night Rain, we had sometimes, over 45 people on our set on a given day. And you were like, whoa,
yeah.
We made that like the old studio motion pictures. That's how we shot it. And we shot it at historical locations. And we had things we had to solve just really spur of the moment. We had a prop that didn't function the way it was going to. And it was a really important part of the plot. Mm-hmm. And we're all standing around for like 20 minutes going, okay, this is what we're going to have to do with it. Yeah. We kind of had to improvise in the best possible way. And I remember everybody was still being democratic about it. We were pushing towards like 35 minutes of discussing these things. And finally I was like, okay, I am a menopausal woman having hot flashes. I've earned the right to make this decision. This is the way it's going to be. And I saw everybody on set just be like their jaws dropped, and everybody got really quiet, but it worked, because I was like, okay, let's go. Because of course, every minute it's crazy to be an actor, a writer, a director, and a producer. So you're aware of what needs to happen creatively. You're aware of how things are going to have to play on camera. You're aware of what your performance needs to be. You're aware of what plot needs to be. You're also aware of money going out the door at every given moment that it turns.
Oh yeah. It's all going off in your head at once.
It's right? Yes, it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I noticed
intense. But Night Rain was by far now one of the most rewarding creative experiences I've ever known, because we really did the whole thing stem to stern, much like the old movie industry, the old studio system did it. We were like a family, and we ate together, and we did things together, and it was really cool.
Let me ask you, go back to this teaser for Making Angels. How did you have to pay to have that space empty and have just you and what was your director with you?
Yes. Well, I was directing. Cynthia was our cinematographer. He brought his gaffer and grip.
Okay.
Andrew Weber. And then it was, you saw on screen, that was Michelle Cantor, the founder of Cinefem, very talented filmmaker as well.
Mm-hmm.
And actress, and she portrays our Dorothy Parker. And then, of course, you see me standing on the stage. It was the four of us, and originally it was going to be solely a photo shoot. It turned into a teaser shoot, and they gave us a deal on it. The Wilshire Ebell Theater was very kind to us.
Okay, so they did charge you.
Generally, they charged us, but they didn't charge us as much as they might have.
Oh no, I get it.
The same thing happened at the Biltmore. Yeah, we still paid for it. We still had to pay for insurance. We still had to pay for the location.
Yeah.
One of the things you can do is you can pick off times, either days of week if it's a short shoot,
mm-hmm.
or times when normally the industry shuts down, like we did with Night Rain. Night Rain, we started shooting that on December 6th at the Biltmore. We finished around the 23rd. Most productions have shut down by then, so we got a very special deal. We also got a special deal because our production dealt with issues that dealt with the Biltmore Hotel, specifically Elizabeth Short, mm-hmm. and her untimely and brutal murder known as the Black Dahlia murder.
Wow.
Biltmore had some shade thrown on it from that. It was rumored that she was a prostitute, which she wasn't, that she brought her tricks to the Biltmore, which she didn't. And it's not that kind of place. They liked the idea of us making a movie that was true to the story of Elizabeth Short, the events leading up to her murder. So they really embraced us. They gave us a very special deal for that.
That's awesome, because I know it's very hard. Because I like to recreate movie scenes, and I wanted to recreate the scene with Jack Nicholson from, I think it's called 5 Easy Pieces, where he clears the diner table, and there's a diner down the street from me that had almost looked like that exact diner set up from that era. And I walked in and asked the owner, I said, I'd like to recreate this scene in this restaurant, and this is just a little deli. This is not like anything fancy. And he sat down and goes, so. What's in it for me? And I went, well, I just, he wanted.
Did he want to be in it? Maybe.
No. He wanted money.
He just wanted the cold hard cash.
Yeah, okay. And I said I can give you $500. I'll come in before your shop opens, so you don't lose any business. I can probably knock this thing out in 2 hours. And it was just kind of funny how he.
That was reasonable. That was a fair offer. Very.
Yeah,
fair
I thought it was, but he didn't want to do it. So I was just like,
more? Was it that he wanted
I don't know. I just kind of left it there and just kind of, I didn't walk out, but I said, okay, well, you just let me know if you're interested. I gave him my card. But, it's just kind of funny how people, when they hear you're making a movie, they think you got money.
Yeah, that's often the assumption. It helps to, well, and I guess see in Los Angeles where you do have people with a great deal more than what productions have, they're often more forgiving of certain things.
Yeah.
Because that's kind of a hard line. Yeah. That's a hard line from what you're describing. And I have not experienced that gratefully. And we've worked at, we shot at Pacific Dining Car, sadly no longer in existence. Very historic restaurant. We shot at Crystal Pier in Pacific Beach. They were very fair to us there. Biltmore was amazing. Biltmore was truly amazing. And LA itself, the people of Los Angeles, and they're used to seeing productions. At one point, it was really sweet. We were up on Mulholland Drive, which is also a very historic place, looking at the Hollywood sign, and we were shooting. My car is supposed to drive past the Hollywood sign. And the line is, how does anybody ever get anywhere around here? Oh. And it's a double entendre because it's hard in the business and hard just traffic wise.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I see what you mean.
Space, distance wise. But there was a group up there at the time, a tour group. And the young man who was running the tour group was like, "Are you guys shooting a movie? I'm trying to, explain to them that all kinds of movies get shot." I'm like, yes. It's called Night Rain. Nice meeting everybody. You're friendly to the tour people too. And I think it does. I think generally it really helps when you can find people you can really work with and be kind to you, and vice versa. It's like it really makes a difference, because the hardlining thing, I guess, maybe like you said, he maybe had an idea that you had a lot more to give, but that's a pretty reasonable offer. I think some of our offers included, like, we'll pay you around that amount, say $500 or something like that, and we'll eat there. And when you're talking about all this cast and crew, that's good business for them. So so we've been pretty blessed. We've been pretty blessed with what and I can hardly wait to keep going. I mean, it's been so difficult. First we had the lockdowns, then we had strikes, then now we're having this violence in LA, and it was just,
it's crazy.
Just ruled. I don't know if you heard, but the ruling by the federal judge is that Donald Trump did violate the 10th Amendment of the Constitution, and he's going to have to defer the authority over the California Coast Guard to Governor Newsom now.
The Coast Guard or the National Guard?
The National Guard. National Guard.
So that happened today?
Yeah, that was just announced within the last couple of hours. Yeah, that a federal judge made that determination. So there's an injunction. There's an injunction against the White House to deploy any more of the National Guard and other troops. And
I think that's kind of too bad. They're just tearing the place apart. And
I was there. Interestingly,
were you really?
I was down there. I was down there on Tuesday, and while I think I believe there were some of these incidents going on, and that was earlier on. But when I was there, I did not see any of that. I did not see any of that. Although I did see a lot of vandalism. Unfortunately,
well, it opens your eyes up to what the media really covers, and they change your viewpoint. You have no idea what's real anymore.
Which is why I went there.
Yeah, that's nice.
Well, I'm seeing so many people posting whatever side they're saying they're on, back and forth, back and forth. And I thought, I said to a friend of mine, he was with me on the phone at the time, and I said, you know what, let's just go. So I took Slauson to Alameda, right into Temple, and right into the First Street area, and I drove through it a couple of times, and I was asking people from my car, like, why are you here? I got like offers for like 5 dates, and I was like, okay, I don't know that's why you guys are here, but that's apparently why some of you are here. But it takes all kinds. And there was a guy like selling flags of Mexico, and other people like DoorDash and things like that, like coming in and like bringing food to people, and I mean, it's just I heard about that in the '60s from friends of mine who grew up in the '60s, saying it was some people were there because they were very passionately inflamed with the issues, and some people were there to pick people up or whatever.
It's an amazing how the media slants things. And it doesn't matter which network you watch. It's all seems to be garbage.
It's social media, and you'll see too. Like, I will always fact check now. People will post, Pope Leo XIV said this. They're deploying troops to Disneyland, and I looked that up, and I was like, okay, I cannot find a single story that verifies this, so I don't think this is real.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm just finding myself fact checking everything, which is why for me, most of my posts, rather than my opinions, which while my opinions are worth a lot to me, at the end of the day, I'm not a lawmaker. I'm not a politician. I'm not even an attorney. I consulted for, you might be familiar with this. I consulted for, you're probably familiar with Tommy Wiseau of The Room. He was the subject of the movie Disaster Artist with James Franco. And there was a lawsuit, a cross-border lawsuit from Canada to the U.S. and now here in the U.S. And I consulted for that case. I used to tutor attorneys. Someone once asked me, well, are you an attorney? No, I'm not an attorney. But I consulted for attorneys, and I also have, I've also tutored pre-law, I should say, not attorneys. I tutored more specifically pre-law students. But I know something about the law, but I I'm not a lawmaker. I'm not a politician. I'm not an attorney. I'm not a judge. It's not up to me. I have my opinions. Sure, the internet is filled with opinions. This is this, this is this, this is, but I generally like to just post stories that are reliable when it comes to things like that, when it comes to actual facts, because at the end of the day, I could verse my opinion on Tommy Wiseau's case. For example, I was a consultant for that case. I can say, this is what I observed. These are my opinions. But I don't ultimately make the decisions.
Well, I think it's unfortunate. There's at least 1,000 guys and gals on YouTube that are saying the sky is falling, but they don't give you a solution.
Right.
What should we do? Like, there's nothing I can do about immigration. There's nothing I can do about Israel attacking Iran or anything, but they pound it into our heads and make us feel helpless. I mean, what am I going to do? Pick up a rifle? And, it's just
the best not to, because you'll probably be taken out when you do. I mean,
sure. But I think it's bad. I'm trying to steer away from,
not to mention,
because my channel is kind of, what's that?
I said, not to mention people get hurt.
Oh yeah. It's but I think it's unfortunate that they're stirring the pot instead of providing solutions, and nobody's providing solutions. Because I lived in Arizona for 10 years, and there were Mexican people everywhere, and they were the nicest people. We had landscapers that were Mexican and people working in all the shops, and they were the nicest people. We never saw any violence. But when you move back east, it's like, oh my God, the Mexicans. It's like, what? We didn't see anything. I don't know what you see in Southern California.
When I was in downtown LA, I didn't see any of that. And I'm not denying that there was at one point violence, I saw graffiti. I saw the footage of people setting Waymo cars on fire and throwing rocks down at police cars and things like that. And so I'm not, but did it escalate to the point where you needed to deploy 4,000 National Guard troops and 700 Marines? I think that was the latest number I read. I didn't see that. I think that, the footage that I did see often being replayed was the more violent footage. They didn't show the more peaceful, but violence is news, I suppose. And of course, you're right. I mean, there is this desire to shape the minds of people. I think it was during the days of Augustus Caesar, the expression, he who controls the mob rules Rome.
Yeah.
So if you are going to shape the way people think and feel, I think especially feeling, I think one of the easiest ways to manipulate people is through their emotions. I try to look at it from certain perspectives. I'm 8.5 years in philosophy. I've been literally in disciplines that teach me to think, or attempt to think logically about things and look at facts. One of the facts that doesn't escape me is that if these troops hadn't been deployed, and if a budget of 134 million wasn't driven towards that, maybe some of that could be, put towards the LA homeless. We have the highest.
Yes, exactly.
We have the highest homeless population, and an audit has been done, and there is still no proof that any monies that have been allotted to the homeless of Los Angeles have actually made it to those organizations that will help the homeless. So, I mean, I support supporting the poor and putting money towards roads and schools and food and real health care, not just insurance, but actual care. For people. Make it available. Yeah,
that makes sense.
I support these things that people refer to as liberal. I think of them as being very humane. My father was a liberal Democrat. My mother was a conservative Republican. That's how I grew up, and I'm an independent. And I don't mean I sometimes vote Democrat or sometimes vote Republican. I mean I'm a champion of independence and third parties. I have been since 1996. So that has gotten me into some trouble. Some people don't like that, but that is who I am. So if that's, I'm not, I know I won't please everybody.
No, you'll never please everyone. And I try to stay out of it altogether. I kind of have I see things differently now that I'm older than when I was younger. But
did you ever see the movie Harold and Maude with Bud Cort and Ruth Gordon? Oh my God. There's a wonderful line in there about consistency is not a human trait, is one of the lines in the movie. Consistency is not a human trait. The other moment I love in the movie is when he asks her about, doesn't she engage in any more protests? This film was made in the early 70s. And she says, well, yes. She says, oh, every day in my own individual way. And she's, much older than he is. This is part of the story. I think you were saying, like, what am I going to do about this? What am I going to? I think you make changes in your own individual way. And I think you do it every time you treat a human being with dignity. I think do it every time you treat a creature with dignity. And even our enemies. Love our enemies. I think even with people we would perceive as enemies, people with a different point of view, I've seen people get very inflamed. I've been name called and I'll say, would you please kindly not say those things? I've had people call me. Somebody in my Q&A recently referred to me as a fraud. I was like, well, no, this is how this is.
What?
I'm trying to reason in the situation. I'm trying. Well, this is one of the stalkers, most likely. But
okay.
Long and short is that I try not to inflame situations, and I try to, at all costs, treat people the way I would want to be treated, basically. So even if they don't agree with my point of view, even if they become hostile, I try to somehow summon something valuable. And so in that way, too, that's one way that you can always do something, no matter how helpless we may be made to feel at times. I think we're not, but you're right that we can be made to feel that way.
So your current, we're going to kind of steer it back to filmmaking. Because I'm thinking,
how do we?
Because I'm thinking, sorry,
we just went with it, but yeah,
I know.
Well, but I guess when films deal with real life subjects, Making Angels has elements about race and things like that. So I guess it does touch on all of those things.
So where do you get all of your energy? I mean, you have all this amazing energy and focus and excitement, and that I wasn't expecting that when we had our first phone call. It's like, whoa, wow, she's so passionate, and movies, you're brilliant, and how do you keep the energy going and keep going and pushing forward? Because I know how hard it is. I'm all by myself. And, I tried to hire a cinematographer for my first documentary. In the middle of the production, at the end of the shoot, he goes, I'm sorry, I'm not coming back. And I went, well, I gave you a contract where you have to give me 2 weeks notice. He's like, I'm sorry, I'm moving to Cincinnati and I can't do that. And he was gone. So I had to do the rest of the cinematography myself, which is fine. I know how to do it.
It would have been interesting if he would have been able to refer you to somebody.
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, I work with...
I've had situations like that. Although I have had people drop out just a few days, field day. Our director dropped out a few days before, and our cinematographer took on a lot of things. And it was embedded in the script. A lot of direction is embedded in scripts, but... Yeah. The directors... don't always know that, but it's true. Yes, I have such a deep respect for writers, but I have a deep respect for every person on a movie making team, and that's why I know Directors Guild has certain rules, Writers Guild has certain rules. This Directors Guild can be tough, but I don't put a film by in my name. It's because I figure it's by every single person who worked on that movie. So
where do you
buy in all the credits? So
you have an idea for a film, and you just call people up and say, "Hey, it's Jeanne. Let's make a movie," or
you say, "Never happened."
Okay, I don't, because I have a hard time doing.
I had someone once say to me, "I want to be like Jeanne and just run around and make movies." I was like, "Run around and make movies? Okay, I'll tell you how I run around." And
yeah,
it starts with an idea. It starts with something that inspires me. It often incorporates something true or historical. In the case of The Scarapist, you had a true story of therapist abuse. In the case of Night Rain, it came together when I realized it needed to be something that liberated Elizabeth Short, the real Elizabeth Short, not false image. Making Angels, you have this character, Dorothy Parker, who's inspiring these 5 women artists, and Zora Neale Hurston as well. And these are real people. And then, of course, you have this Project Vamp Out that incorporates Vlad the Impaler and Tommy Wiseau and kind of mashes their stories together.
Oh, see, I haven't watched the trailer to Vamp Out yet here.
Yeah, that's an introductory video.
Vlad the Impaler? Oh.
Yeah.
I can't stand vampires. So
well, and I've already been in touch with some of the historians who work on and Wallachia, and they have documents that have never been seen before. They have an incredible store of documents that were never released about the historical person who Dracula is based on. And I become very interested in real stories, in true stories, in historical events and people.
So were these considered historical fiction, or are these historical? They're not documentaries.
It's hard to say. It's almost like taking the historical details of Vlad the Impaler and the historical details of Tommy Wiseau and bringing them together. Yeah. But I don't know if I'd call it historical fiction. It's almost like historical details embedded in a narrative. There's two stories happening at once, like Night Rain. Night Rain even had elements of factuality, because they're really, this stalker character in the movie is a composite of my stalkers. And the people who are characters in Night Rain are based on real people in my life.
So you've taken somebody stalking you and turned it into a movie, kind of. I mean, you've taken your own experiences.
Oh, they one of them contacted my producer days before we were getting ready to shoot and said, "You don't want to work with her. She's just a liar. She's a horrible person." And she was like, "Well, why does this person even care?" But they were basically trying to get my production shut down right before it started. That was their aim, apparently. It didn't work, thank God. And we had a great shoot.
Wow.
But yeah, there are some very interesting people in the world, we'll say.
Yeah.
And what their motivations are and why they do what they do. I guess sometimes they're being paid. Sometimes they may have some other reason. I cannot ascertain, but I leave it to them to work that out for themselves. But it is interesting. And so it was interesting that life was emulating art, was emulating my life, was emulating the art. There was sort of this meta reality and sort of mirrors kind of lined up together and sort of reflecting each other almost ad infinitum. So, but it starts with a script. For me, there is a script. The teaser was certainly a anomaly to that, but there were reasons for that because of the strikes. A screenplay is written. It is worked. It is, production meetings happen for sometimes months, like with Night Rain. We have table reads like we did for Making Angels to finalize the script. Once the script is finalized, and generally it's one of those things when you know it, that it's workable. And it's not just that it tells a story, it communicates that story to the people it needs to communicate to, which is your team. If you can see actors developing the character as you've seen them, or maybe even things you haven't seen but work, if your crew understands what's happening in the screenplay, then you've written a good screenplay. Agents will say a good screenplay is a script that sells, because that's their job. But I say a great screenplay is a screenplay that communicates to the cast and crew as it's supposed to. It's a blueprint. It's a blueprint to make a movie, as opposed to architectural plans that create a building in a similar way. And so you have this structure, and the structure is very clear, and people going in know what they're shooting, know what they're performing, know what they're doing. And then, of course, you still have all these things happen that you can't even anticipate. Sure. But it's all very, very planned out. And you only have so many days to do it. And you have your equipment rented. Some of it is owned maybe by some of your crew members, but a lot of it has to be rented regardless. And the locations have to be rented, and everybody has to be paid. And God willing, I mean, sometimes very miraculous things have to happen for that to work out. It's really amazing how things can come together on a movie shoot. You plan everything, and you still can't plan for everything. And I think it was Robert Altman who said the best things on his films have often been just happy accidents. And that's a pretty humble thing for a director like Robert Altman to say.
Sure.
I mean, he really is a phenomenal director. I was recently watching MASH again, and I was watching The Player not that long ago for a podcast that I did with a group. And it's just, you watch him and you go, wow, there's a certain mastery in what shortcuts. Also, there's a certain mastery in what he does. And yet even he admits that some of it has to just happen accidentally and by some miracle.
Do you find yourself watching films now that you know so much about movie making where you can't enjoy the film like you did before you made a film? Because I see stuff now, I'm like, oh, this is all green screen. Or, we went to see Mission Impossible, the most recent with Tom Cruise. And there were scenes that just didn't make any sense to me, the way they put it together. And I'm like, what did they do? Did they just say, oh, fuck it, we'll just make it like this and put it out there?
It's Tom Cruise, so whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I haven't seen it yet. I can't comment on that intelligently, although I must admit that I'm not a big action film or superhero film person. Although I have watched them. Yeah. I will say that I have a lot of my appreciation has grown. I mentioned that I was mentored by David Lynch. Every time I watch David's work, I can find a new appreciation for it and what he accomplished.
Did he do Blue Velvet?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Blue Velvet is such an interesting story.
Oh, yeah. Isn't that's one of my favorite films.
He had to basically the short story of Blue Velvet being made. And originally he wanted Val Kilmer in the role that went to Colin McLaughlin, which actually, and talk about a happy accident, because they had a wonderful filmmaking, movie making, show making marriage. Colin McLaughlin was amazing in Twin Peaks. It's hard to imagine anybody else in the role of Agent Dale Cooper. But no one wanted to touch that movie. Val Kilmer thought that it reminded him of soft porn. He wasn't going to touch it. It got made because
it was kind of edgy,
especially for its time, and because it's still edgy. So for its time, it was really edgy. And I am very well aware, working with David's team and having had communications with David too, and Jennifer Lynch and her representative as well. That movie was made because David gave final cut of Dune to Dino De Laurentiis. That's why Blue Velvet got made. That's what he sacrificed. That's his offering on the altar of filmmaking to make Blue Velvet.
Lynch was part of Dune at first?
Pardon?
Lynch directed Dune?
He directed Dune, but
I didn't know that.
He directed the very first adaptation of Dune, and he did not like it. He did not like the end result, and a large part of that was because he gave up the final cut to Dino De Laurentiis, the producer. But that's how Blue Velvet was made. No one wanted to touch it. It was not going anywhere in Hollywood until he gave that up, and thus Blue Velvet was produced.
Here, and I'll show you how much I love. I've got little sound effects, a board sound effects thing here. And here's a line from Blue Velvet.
Suave. God damn, you're one suave fucker.
So that is Dennis Hopper speaking to Dean Stockwell.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Who was very close friends with Russ Tamblyn. That's how Russ Tamblyn ended up in the role of Dr. Jacoby on the Twin Peaks series, because when he saw Blue Velvet premiere, in support of his very, very good friend, Dean Stockwell, he was also very good friends with Dennis Hopper. And in an after party, he said to David, I'd really like to work with you. And David's like, oh, Ross, I think we can do something. And David was a filmmaker and a gentleman. So if he said he was going to do something, he actually did it. Wow. And he did. Russ Tamblyn did not have to audition for the role of Dr. Jacoby. It was a role that was shaped largely for Russ by David. And then Russ took it the rest of the way, and with his artistic background, he did a very good job, I thought, with it. And it's fascinating. It's the whole lore of things is so interesting. And I've been very blessed to know very remarkably talented, creative people who inspire me, who in turn then inspire me to keep going. It's not easy now. Filmmaking has changed a great deal, even since the lockdowns, especially since the strikes. And that includes independent filmmaking as well. But I guess it's just something inside of you. When it's just something inside of you and it's what you do, you have to do it.
Well, isn't it fascinating? You mentioned changes, how what once took a room full of equipment and you can do it all now. People make some movies on their iPhones. Yeah, exactly. And it's just fascinating. Like just to record music, I can do it all right here on a laptop and record a commercially viable piece of music. That you needed a whole room of equipment 30 years ago to make.
And you needed a lot of money because you had to shoot 35 millimeter, and that was very expensive.
Oh, yeah,
that was
the film,
a very expensive thing to do. And so now to be a filmmaker, and I will distinguish filmmaking and movie making. You know, a filmmaker can grab a Super 8 camera or their phone, as you mentioned, and they can shoot the whole thing themselves without a crew, even without a cast, depending on what you're shooting. But if you want to make movies, if you want to make motion pictures, that's a little different. You do need a team to do that. There is a certain scope of a motion picture. It doesn't make one better than the other because each one functions very differently. I couldn't have made Night Rain as a film because we needed those 45 people on that set.
Mm-hmm.
But when I was working with my friends in film school, we were making films. We had a very small cast, a very small crew, sometimes barely any. Sometimes I knew people who just went out and shot footage of plants with their Super 8 camera and edited it. And it was beautiful footage. And it told a story. It told a story in some way. It's storytelling. It's storytelling with a certain kind of medium.
Wow. I just think it's fascinating what you can do now.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Yeah. And you don't need large sums of money anymore to do it.
No, and and I think the other thing that's added to it is the internet. I mean, think about 30 years ago, I would have had no idea that you existed, or I would have never known about your films. I've met so many people around the world, especially in Great Britain, not filmmakers, just people I've interviewed or talked to. And the internet is bringing the world together. A lot of people don't like it, but I found AI has helped me write things. I don't use it to write things verbatim, but do you see that all these tools are kind of making the process easier, especially for an independent artist like yourself that isn't represented by a major studio? Do you find that the technology is making things easier, or are you anti-AI?
I'm not an AI person. I have no judgments about the use of it.
Okay.
I don't have any judgments about it. Someone was actually recently suggesting for me to use ChatGPT, and I said I don't use ChatGPT to write, and he said, well, you could use it just to create this to format your screenplays, and I said, well, formatting my screenplays is also writing. That's also part of the writing process, especially for me. So I think it just depends on each individual person. And of course, there are certain senses. I mean, it's interesting. I'm an independent artist and filmmaker, but I'm not fully independent because I do have a studio. So I'm a small studio owner making independent style movies independently of major studios, but I'm right there in a town where the major studios exist and have constant interaction with individuals related to those places. So I'm in a really weird position. I'm pulled in a lot of directions. I see things from a lot of different perspectives.
Yeah.
I have no judgments about what tools people want to use to tell their story, because after all, it's their story. Who am I to say you should do this or you should do that? I don't think I'm in a position to do that. But I personally tend to do things still the old-fashioned way. Maybe it's just because I'm stubborn. Maybe it's just because I'm a creature of habit. I don't know.
Well, if you
know that there are issues, I know there are issues in the industry with things like AI for actors and writers, and now there's, I don't know if you heard, but the first lawsuit's been launched. The very first lawsuits related to AI have been launched by Universal and Disney. Apparently, there is content that has been created through AI that is somehow a violation of their copyrights and trademarks, potentially.
Oh, definitely.
So here we go. Yeah. I was told by an attorney my attorney is one of the top 50 copyright trademark attorneys in the country, Daniel Catman, and he told me they've already been briefed about this stuff. It's coming, So now it's arrived.
Well, and what I'm finding is, I think how AI works is it goes out and it queries all these pieces of art. So if you say create a video of a cat and a ball of yarn, it goes out and it pulls all these pieces from different pieces of work on the internet, and it puts it into this final product, but it can't be copyrighted. The Copyright Office told me you can't copyright that.
Well, the issue is because it's not a copyright has to be something that's created by an individual, created by a human being, and not by a technological machine. Yeah. But here we are, the first lawsuit against, I suppose, those who own the AI technology, potentially. I mean, as the Scarapist became I was talking to a French director who has directed some very commercial Hollywood films as well. And he said, that he knew about the Scarapist, and he said that is considered in Europe to be a very successful movie because it had such an influence on culture and on cinema. Because you had from Get Out to Unsane to Greta to Hypnotic to Hypnosis to Split to all these other movies that emulated aspects, or even the Scarapist itself, like Hypnotic for Netflix did. And so he's like, that's what we consider to be successful because it's culturally impactful. It's not about how commercially, or not saying it wasn't commercially successful, but how commercially successful it is or not. I do take issue because I saw a lot of that going on before AI technology was being implemented. That it's okay. I get it. Maybe you're inspired by it. Maybe you just want to take things from it. You can't take concepts, of course, that's not copyrightable, but it would be nice to get an acknowledgement. And I do, that's where I take some issue with AI. AI pulling from these different artists to create something new, interesting, but where does the artist get credited or paid through all of that? And the answer is they don't. Of course, they don't.
Yeah.
And I do have some issue with that.
It almost makes me afraid to put anything on the internet anymore, because you never know what's going to be ripped off just by accident.
I don't know if you've seen this. But there's also this issue, Peter, that if you post the lyrics to a song or the verses of a poem on social media platforms like Facebook, there's an issue with commons licensing and things like that once you've done that. So copyrights and intellectual property are going to become a really big hotbed issue, especially in entertainment with all the new technologies. There's no doubt about it. We're just at the beginning of it now. So it is a very real thing. And it's arrived now officially.
Yeah.
People saw it coming, but it has officially arrived. So I think also for my own purposes, it also helps me not to step into that. But that's because my work does go out into the commercial world. And the last thing I want is something popping up where it's like, it's embedded in the film. The sound is finished. The colorizing is finished. Everything's done. Or the colorization is finished, or correct is finished. And then someone says, oh yeah, you can't use that because that's ... I'd be like, oh Jesus. Oh my God. I could be spending tens of thousands of dollars just to take that one little piece out or some such thing. It's just not, it's not worth it to me in what I do, because I have to really streamline things because I have relatively tight budgets, although our upcoming budgets are not as tight as they've been. But still, you don't want to find yourself in that situation.
So your current project is Making Angels, correct? Is that That's
one of our current projects, as is Vamp Out, the one I mentioned, the mashup of Vlad the Impaler and Tommy Wiseau. There's a very prominent festival that invited us to send our catalog of projects. I should be hearing back within the next probably week. It's very nerve-wracking. We are working on different projects at once. There are a couple of books too, titles of books that are being not just developed but finalized. And so
you've written?
Yeah. And illustrated. Yeah. There's a number of them. I mean, I've just got so much to do most of the time.
So you're writing books, movies,
to take care of myself.
And you're a musician too. You scored some of the music. I when I watched Night Rain, you were doing some of the piano work in that, aren't you?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't train for piano formally. I trained for classical guitar. There's actually a classical guitar on the side of me. There it is. You can almost see the case.
Oh, you play guitar too?
I do play guitar too.
Yeah.
I keep going the wrong way with it, but everything's a mirror image. You can almost see like where the guitar case is right there.
Yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, we're talking about.
I had formal training in guitar, but not piano. But yeah,
classical.
Yeah, classical.
Oh wow.
Yeah. And some blues and folk and.
Oh wow.
Few different genres of guitar. Yeah. I at one time I thought I was going to be like a metal guitar player for a metal band. I had this idea for a metal band. And I was like, okay, and post-punk. It's just, I think that when you're a creative person, you don't want to stop it. You never want to stop it.
Oh, yeah.
You want to make sure, I guess, I think the energy comes from that. It comes from that, the need, the passion of it. It's what we're made for. It's what we're made for. We were made to make stuff. That's
it
is to be a human being. And I think that actually the struggles since the lockdowns, well, particularly since the strikes, though, I've had to consume a lot less and create. I don't know about creating more, but maybe more fervently, maybe more of a consciousness, because you don't have those other distractions, and it's just something you have to do. It just comes, and it always.
Oh yeah, and we had talked about that, about how some people say, well, you should just focus on one thing and make that, but I can't. I do painting. I've written books, and just like you, poetry, music.
I can even see from your environment that's all around you. And I just talked about this because I just did a poetry performance at this beautiful historical dance studio. Mm-hmm. The daughter of one of the founders of modern dance now occupies the studio. And I was saying that thing because I was being asked, like, well, you're doing all these things, and I don't necessarily do them all at the same time. But I do them. And I said, arts are different from post-industrial assembly line, manufacturing. One person makes this part and the other person makes that part. So you've got somebody makes the carburetor and somebody else focuses on spark plugs and somebody else. And then you've got a car at the end of it all. Arts are different. Arts interweave, interact, interplay, intercourse with each other. It's not, I think it's actually somewhat unnatural for an artist to try to be one thing. One thing tends to bleed into other things. I really appreciated what you created with that film, and taking a photographic image really that you saw, and creating a painting out of it, and then making a film about painting it. That makes sense to me. That makes a lot more sense than, oh no, I only do this and only that. Mm-hmm. I only paint, but I don't really write or draw or make films or act or shoot or, play music or whatever it is. It seems to me very natural when artists do multiple things. Well, that's very natural.
And when I made that, it wasn't initially made for you to see it. I wanted people to see the long process, because most people think, oh, he just tosses off paintings. But my painting has evolved over time from really rough, and now I'm trying to be more meticulous and doing studies and sketches and studying other artists, all the stuff they told you to do in college that I didn't listen to, but now I'm doing it. But I wanted people, but the average person just is like, whatever. They're like my least popular videos on YouTube. And
yeah, that's okay. That's okay. Because, someone said something to me really interesting recently. He said to me, well, entertainment is more of a passive demand. You sit back and something is happening to you. Arts are a little more demanding. Arts are a little more active. Arts, they provoke you to think and feel things. So if they're not as popular, that's okay. Van Gogh sells one painting in his lifetime to his brother, and now he's sold to David Geffen. David Geffen bought his sunflowers in the highest bid in history, in the highest bid in purchase in art history. So I think that I think we also get oriented in this technological world to think in terms of clicks and hits and all of these things. But I don't think ultimately that should matter. It could matter economically, but then not necessarily. I think if we're going to retain our creative natures and really honor them. I think we just have to make stuff and not worry too much about the rest of it, because you're not going to please everybody, because it's hard. Even Samuel Goldwyn, who was one of the great producers of the Golden Age, said we can make a tree, but we can't make a star. It's hard to know what the public wants. You know, you put Cary Grant, who's the most popular actor of the time, but you put him in a movie where it's a serious drama where he portrays a surgeon and nobody goes to see it. But it's Cary Grant, so who knows why? You know, nobody. It's very hard to predict. It's better to make stuff. It's better just to make stuff. I think that's true too. I think it's interesting that, for example, the year that Chicago and the Gangs of New York came out, the Gangs of New York was slated as the big production. I mean, it was Martin Scorsese, it was Daniel Day-Lewis, it was huge. It was so top heavy. Cameron Diaz and Leonardo DiCaprio. So, of course, Weinstein Company, Miramax thought this was going to be our biggest production of the year. They didn't anticipate that because of the 2008 economic collapse, everybody was going to flock towards Chicago, which became the big movie of the year. So you have a taster like Weinstein, and now Weinstein's fate has been affirmed because he's been convicted yet again. But... And I won't even go there because I have a Weinstein story, but I won't go there right now.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
Yeah, well, I'm not that kind of actress. So my movie Breath of God wasn't made around 2003 when I thought it might be. But I wasn't willing to do certain things. And I don't judge people who did, but I was not raised that way. But even Weinstein, who's considered a taster and who has so much power and influence, not even he could have predicted that. He did not predict that. He didn't foresee what audiences ultimately would respond to, because they didn't realize what kind of impact all of these economic challenges were going to have on the public. Yeah. So we think we know something's going to be this. We don't. Not even people who are at the top of this industry can absolutely affirm that. What things are going to do. Nobody predicted that The Room, which is called the best, worst movie ever made, was going to be this celebrated movie that still sells out at theaters, which is, it's almost inconceivable.
Well, I think I've learned that too. Like with music, I stopped trying to write music for the public, and I just write what I like. And I like it. I have fun doing it. I put it out there, and if they like it, most people don't like my stuff. And I've just come to accept that. And I'm just like, what? I don't care. I just like it.
It's interesting too. This is an issue that I take, and this is a social media. I think this is an impact of social media. I've heard people say things like, I don't like it. It's not good. It's like, wait, those are two different things.
Yeah, that's true.
You don't like it, and that's not wrong. That's your opinion, and it's subjective. And art is made to provoke, and art is subjective. On many levels, it's subjective. We say, well, this is what I like. This is what I don't like. I like it. I don't like it. I like it. It's good. I don't like it. It's bad. No, that's not necessarily the case. I've watched movies or listened to music that I can appreciate. I don't necessarily like it, but it certainly doesn't make it bad. Whatever that's supposed to mean. Bad, good, bad, good. I actually think that we need to regroup and restore our sensibilities when it comes to the arts, and remember remember what to value and what really matters. And I think that's a really good way to kind of round everything out of everything we've talked about, is I think we need to sit down and reevaluate a lot of things. This isn't just about what kind of monies are available or not available, or choices people are making, what side of the political fence someone is on. I think all of us as human beings, we need to collectively rethink our valuation and remember what real worth means.
Well, I have a theory that the 60s specifically, I used to be a huge Beatles fan of the rock group, the Beatles.
Sure.
But now that I'm older, I hear their music. I'm like, how did that song make it? And I think the Beatles kind of dumbed everybody down to what's really good music, because you went from Gershwin, Nat King Cole, really crafted songwriters that were making a lot of those music back then. Then in come Love Me Do. Love Me Do has one verse and a chorus. And
although they pushed the envelope a bit with things like the White Album. I think they wanted to get beyond. I think they wanted to get beyond the pop, the British invasion pop sound, and George Martin had a lot to do with the production of that, and Brian Epstein bringing them towards that, and because they were very inspired by people who Lynch was inspired by, so I mean they were interested in the R&B of the United States, and I think it was Please Please Me was supposed to sound much slower and.
Mm-hmm. And they sped it up.
Yeah, they sped it up.
So you're a Beatles.
I know a lot of I knew Beatles when I remember I was very interested in John Lennon and his anti-war stance. And when he died, I was very sad. And when I was 11, my husband Guy Hoffman, who was drummer in Violent Femmes and Bodines, was a very big fan of British invasion bands like the Beatles and the Who, because he learned to drum from the age of 9 from those bands.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I'm very familiar, but I think that I'm trying to think now. My brain is just, if I can just think for a minute, like it's going to hit me. Who did it? God, no. Oh, man. It's going to come to me in a minute. It will.
That's all right.
Yeah, it's like oh God, it's going to come to me in a minute. It's like one of those moments where you're just like, no, Roy Orbison. There are far too many songs. Like I'll search Crying, it'll bring up Aerosmith. I'll search Pretty Woman, it'll bring up the movie. I'm like, no, I'm trying to get to
exactly.
Roy Orbison. Yeah. Roy Orbison was a big influence on the Beatles.
Oh, yeah.
The Beatles. George Martin, did I say George Harrison? George Martin, their producer, had a lot to do with affecting their sound. They had kind of an edgier sound when they were the Silver Beatles, playing out of clubs like in Hamburg and places like that. But I think that, yes, I think you're right in the sense that the whole thing of pop music, the late 50s, early 60s, you heard a different kind of sound and a different kind of lyric. She loves you. Yeah. It's not exactly, protest song.
No.
You're right. But I guess in a way, we've kind of always seen that. We've kind of, I think the movie industry too has always seen kind of these, they'll have these, what they call screwball comedies.
Sure.
Meet cutes, but then they've also had, things like Casablanca or Confessions of a Nazi Spy. We've always seen in the popular genres, even within entertainment, different elements. But certainly, I think that there was a shift. The Beatles did create a pretty big shift in what was considered to be not only music, but music culture. Because suddenly you had the 4 mop tops all in their suits, and that whole look was very crafted. It was very crafted, and the Beatlemania was very crafted.
Well, if you want to see an interesting channel, it's on YouTube. It's called Sage of Quay. A guy named Mike Williams hosts it, and he talks about a conspiracy that he thinks he's discovered that the Beatles were the first manufactured boy band, and that
I wouldn't doubt it. I wouldn't doubt. I mean, in a way, yes, because even though they did form, you had 4 members, but one of those original members was Pete Best. And Pete Best was pushed out because it was felt that bringing in Ringo, who was very established in the British music industry.
Yeah.
And especially he played very well as a session musician as well. He was a studio musician. And these other 3 guys were not, but their material was interesting. Their songwriting was interesting. But bringing when Brian Epstein took them on in management and brought them to George Martin, that did change things. And their image was crafted. So in a way, that there is something to be said about that. maybe not, I wouldn't exactly call them new kids on the block or anything like that, but there was a quality.
Oh, yeah.
There was a quality whereby there was a certain amount of manufacture going on.
Well, if you have time, just check out the channel. It's pretty interesting. He's done just I can't imagine how many hours he's put into his research. It's kind of conspiratorial. So if you're into kind of that spooky conspiratorial stuff, he's a very nice guy. He's been on my show a few times, but he's got some
that's so cool.
twisted. Some people see this twisted. I never saw it that way. Now that I see it, I can't unsee it. Like it's kind of
yeah.
You know, once you see Building 7 on 9/11 free fall speed, if you're like, wait a minute, something else would happen on that day. Then I don't know if you know about Building 7. We're off in the weeds.
Yeah,
here,
we could. Yeah, well, I know some things. There's a poet who wrote a book about 9/11 and interviewed quite a number of people, including people who worked at the airports, one in particular in LAX, who had a lot to say about 9/11. And so, yeah, I think there's a lot beneath the surface.
Yeah,
when scratched.
And I know if we say anything about it on YouTube, they'll delete this video if that's how controversial it is. So I'll probably.
It's possible. It's possible.
Yeah. It's true. It's true. They will.
I now I'm tempted to let me see if I can find his name, who wrote the book and who formed it.
Do you know this person?
Oh yes. I did a performance with him when his book came out. And he had a lot of interesting things to say. Sander Hicks, who also has run for some offices. Sander Hicks has a book out about 9/11 that's very interesting.
Oh, really? Okay, I'm just looking him up here.
Yeah,
look that up when we're offline.
He's a very interesting person, and he ran for a political office within the last 10, 15 years, and the off-ball press, and he's a very interesting person. He had a lot of interesting things to say in that book. I've used that word interesting a number of times because interesting says a lot without it's you know, I think it was Noam Chomsky who very deftly said that he only reads the economic papers because they're the only ones that don't lie. And he said, you know, I'm not trying to tout conspiracy theories. He said, I'm just presenting. This is Noam Chomsky now. Yeah, professor at MIT, professor of linguistics, founder of generative grammar theory, brilliant man. He said, I'm not trying to devise or tout conspiracy theory. I am presenting facts. If you deduce conspiracy from that, I can't help that. I think what he's basically trying to say is that a lot of the facts point to some of the conspiracies that are out there. There's conspiracy theories that are out there. Yeah. I try to look at facts. I try to say, these are the facts. And if this is my interpretation, this is my interpretation of those facts. I try not to confuse the two things and state my opinions as if they are fact, because that is a common problem in our age these days. And I think social media has brought on some of that as well.
Yeah.
But I think that it's important to be able to voice what we think without danger. I know that's naive because it happens anyway.
Yeah.
But I think it is important to be able to dialogue again. We've reached the point where volume on conversation is very loud a lot of the time. It's about people come in with an assumption almost immediately, very defensive, and I'm right, you're wrong.
Yes, yeah.
I think we've lost our sense of communication and intimacy doing that. Mm-hmm. We lose that, and it's a very high price to pay for feeling right or being right.
Yeah.
I hope I don't find myself there. I hope I can remember how important it is to dialogue.
Yeah, and most people don't even know how to talk to each other anymore. So
It's a scary thing, isn't it, Peter? It's
yeah,
really
yeah. When you walk into the drugstore and you try to talk to the cashier, it's like, hello? I just said, hi, how's your day? And they're like, what? And it's like, my God, what's wrong with everybody?
People are very, I see that too.
Yeah.
I mean, people are very hyped up. People are very defensive. People are very angry. And they're afraid. And it's understandable. And I think especially in the United States, we're sort of conditioned to be scared, especially the media, the way it's designed is we're conditioned to be afraid. And I think the more afraid we are, the more we consume things we don't need or something. So there is sort of this sort of thing going on there. But as I said, with the strikes and everything, I had a good 5 to 7 months where we were able to get on, and then things got really hard.
Yeah.
I had my first bout of COVID in November of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
And I had another very severe kind of influenza in this last December of 2024.
Wow.
And it was very stressful. And so I think I think we're almost all of us kind of in this state of trauma now. Trauma's become, which isn't healthy. It's not healthy to get to a point where trauma becomes normal.
Yeah, you're living constantly in that really toxic environment.
Yeah, and it's encouraged. And now here we are in Los Angeles with all that's going on, and we just had the fires, and before that was the strikes, and before that was the lockdowns. And and I was speaking about that with a music therapist who's a friend of mine who I've known for a long time. Her name is Judith Pinkerton, and she's been working with various organizations and individuals to try to relieve trauma from individuals who have become almost like treating trauma like it's sort of their only stability anymore. It becomes really hard to heal from trauma when trauma becomes sort of a way of life.
It's almost like you need it to survive. It's almost like it somehow.
It's a myth. It's a farce. It's but it's true.
But it becomes a crutch or something.
I absolutely agree with you. 100% that it's become, that's the mirage now. That's the mirage.
Yeah.
The mirage is that you've got to constantly be like in this state of fight, flight, freeze,
Oh yeah. It's really strange.
In order to, and it's not healthy. And we weren't made for that. We weren't actually made for that at all. It's very terrifying. Yeah. Because I actually I'm a PTSD sufferer myself, so I know.
Oh yeah.
What kind of condition is, and it is not the way we would want to live as human beings. It's not a way to live. It's not a fulfilling way to live. And I think that the more we create, the more we can heal and move away from that kind of state.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I agree. I use my creation to heal from my trauma too. So I think a lot of us artists, it was just something I gravitated to. Like the Beatles got me into art and music. My mom did too. She was an artist, but it was always a place of escape. I find it a healthy escape or a coping mechanism, which has led to, I guess I want to, and right now.
I love what I just love it. The character of what you're surrounded by. Yeah. I have to ask now, who was your favorite Beatle?
It was John Lennon.
Me too.
Yeah. And as I look at myself in the camera, I've got the wrong white balance on here. Me, Mr. Movie Maker, and I look pink.
I kind of am liking the pink actually.
Oh, really? I don't know.
I actually thought that you did that because that was always kind of like the host creature feature thing to do.
Oh yeah.
Back the lighting that way. You watch movies like Attack of the Killer Clowns where they have like the pink and the orange and the blue like to signify different things.
Yeah,
it's really quite cool actually. I think you did a good job.
I bought this mask at a place called Immortal Masks in Los Angeles, and this thing weighs 25 pounds.
Oh my God.
It's like foam rubber, and I don't know, it's really heavy. So when I put it on, I'm drenched in sweat and I can't breathe through my nose. And so I put on this persona and I can be somebody else. And but you've got to check out an Immortal Mask.
Immortal Mask.
Immortal, yeah, they're great people. They follow me. I'm trying to get them to sponsor my show, but they're not.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. It's funny too, because as you were talking about that, I was thinking about the people I've known, like the assistant to Gary Marshall, for example. and he knew Rob Reiner too. And he also had been a character on one of the Star Trek series.
Gary Marshall was?
No, this gentleman I talked with about screenwriting, who was his assistant and who worked with Rob Reiner.
Gotcha.
He had been on one of the Star Trek series. It might have been a Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
Some of the episodes of Deep Space. And, you know, you look at him in the photographs with the makeup on, and you're like, oh my God, with these people who were in on these shows.
Yeah.
You know, whether it was like, because it wasn't just like with a horror movie where, you know, you were hired for a certain amount of time and then you're done with your stint. It's a week or it's a day or it's 5 weeks or whatever it is. But on television programs, you had to sit in those chairs for hours.
Oh, yeah.
Hours
yeah.
A day, you know, just to get that makeup on every day. I mean, I have such a tremendous respect for that. I don't work in that genre. It would be interesting because it's so funny, like walking around. I've been called everything from Lilith, and they're referring to Beeb Norwith from Cheers. There's my post
Lilith. I never
my postal worker called the lady who runs the post office where I go. It calls me that. And then I've had people in my building, like I'll be walking past and they're like Morticia, and I'm like, okay, but I'm not even trying. So, but thanks. You know, it's like this is just how I look normally.
Do you dress in black a lot? And
I do. I do. And when I was younger, when I was in high school, I remember after high school, someone saying, "Oh yeah, you were always doing that goth thing, and you know, whitening your skin and darkening your hair." And I was like, no, that was just me. I was like, no,
actually, that was just you weren't trying to put on.
I wasn't trying to do that at all. No, that's. I don't. The only makeup I have on right now is lipstick. That's it. Everything else, this is just me.
Oh, I thought you had eyeshadow on and stuff too.
No, this is just me. Natural.
Oh, how wild.
Yeah, no, this is my natural coloring with no makeup.
Wow. Yeah. Because I thought you were, I don't know what you call them, vintage dressers or period dressers.
I do love vintage. Yeah. I do love various periods. I love the medieval period, and I also love the Victorian period, and I also love the 30s and 40s. But I really love and respect the people who do all the cosplay stuff and just go all totally out. I tend to try to incorporate pieces into my everyday life because I still want to look like I'm a person in my life, not doing cosplay in my everyday life. So I try to incorporate pieces, and I'll end up looking very 40s. A lot of the time 40s, I think especially, is the one that people tend to cite.
Yeah, I've seen you dressed like that, and there's a model I worked with in Phoenix. Her name's Amanda Lee, and she dressed like that 24/7.
Oh wow!
Brassiere, shoes, dresses, makeup, hair, everything. She was a platinum blonde. Wow. She was a fascinating model to work with, but I don't think I could carry that out all the time.
All the time. I mean, I think it was Joan Crawford who once said, if you want the girl next door, go next door, she'd say, like, and the thing was, her belief was you answer your fan mail at all costs, and you always look your best. You always walk out because you have to prepare for you. And I do really respect that. She had one of the longest running careers in Hollywood, and for a reason. She was very, very devoted to her fans. She was very, very devoted to the people who appreciated her. I don't know if I necessarily, I don't vibrate with the word fan. I kind of like friends, and I kind of like fellow people, fellow artists, but fandom, I've experienced it. I have experienced fandom on either side. Like I've seen people like around Tommy or Greg with their fandom, and I've experienced fandom myself. And I remember one time there was somebody, and Greg was like, "Wow, you have a fan." And I was like, "A super fan." I'm like, "He's a really nice guy, though. He's a lot to take, but he's a nice guy." And I'm talking about referring to Greg Sestero now, who wrote The Disaster Artist. I have to remember that when I use people's first names in my life, I know who I mean, and everybody may not know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I've been very blessed to be given the opportunity to meet people. I'm glad you reached out. Your wife was right. Just show it to me. I'm so glad you did, because where I first came from in my life, before I could even talk or speak or whatever, my great uncle, Francesco Spicuzza, was a post-impressionist painter. So what I remember first and foremost of the arts is looking up at his paintings when I was like 2 years old and thinking, I do that. Like it's already in me. You know?
You thought that at the age of 2?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember I can picture myself. I'm standing on the stairway of my parents' and aunt's cottage again, because he would do small studies and then he would do the larger paintings. And one of his small studies was a landscape with snow. I just remember seeing that. And that was the thought that I had. I couldn't really talk because I was too little. I was too little to really, I talked, but not a lot. But I could think. And my thought was, I do that. Like it's already in me. And so by the time I was 4 and 5 in kindergarten, I'd be like drawing things with like perspective and stuff like that, you know. And then I started acting when I was like 6, and I wrote my first play when I was 10. And I really had like a lot. I mean, I had a very good education, but it wasn't like someone said, this is what you've got to do, or sat me down with formal training and said, do this. It just came out of me very naturally. And it always has. That's why kind of like formal training kind of freaks me out a little bit, because it's like, what do you mean? This is how you do this. I've always done that. Yeah. You know? It's like, what do you mean? Yet I do rely on very, very, very technically intelligent people. I mean, I don't make movies alone. I don't make movies alone.
It's hard. It's almost impossible to do, I think.
I keep thinking that. All I can think is, gosh. And one of the things that I've really been so happy about is that all of my sets, I've had people say, this was like my best experience making a movie, or this was my best experience making a film or doing a production. And that I feel like, okay, I'm doing something right then. That's a good sign.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, because you want it to be like that. You want it to be like a family. You want it to be like a familial experience and people creatively coming together toward a common goal. There's nothing like that. I can hardly wait to get back to that, because even when we were shooting the teaser, which was a 1-day shoot, it was a 1-day, you know, shoot with like 4 to 5 people. And it was like, gosh, it was just so great because a lot of the core members of the team were back together. And I can hardly wait to do the next thing, you know? Yeah. It's like you just get this itch that you just just like, oh gosh. It's
I know. Yeah.
So I'm going to find out very soon what is happening with this next movement. And of course, if that road isn't the road, there's just got to be a different road.
Yeah.
I know 2 billionaires personally. And I'll tell you, in this current economy, even they don't want to move their money right now, because they'll take such a loss with the way the stock market is, the way that certificates are and other accounts are. It's even moving
really,
around. Yeah,
it's really volatile right now. It's really bad.
And assets trying to, you know, you make a plan and then everything changes the very next day after that. And it's a very hard, very, very difficult economic time, difficult political time.
Oh, for everyone.
These are the times, oftentimes, where artistic times need to be very productive.
Oh, true. That's very true.
You know, I really am very excited for you, because I enjoyed Angel's Flight, which,
oh, thank you. Yeah.
It's for everybody listening. That is an exclusive. We are very proud of that's an exclusive on the platforms. The platform we devised and designed and created over the course of an entire year of 2022. You know, we launched it on November 3rd. I believe it was of 2022 and we worked on it that whole year, and it's the first fully woman-owned membership streaming platform in existence.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's really incredible. And I'm just really very happy with the curating of content, the way you would curate a museum or an art gallery. You know, it's
a beautiful website.
Thank you. I had ideas and I devised certain things, and the execution, again, speaking of execution, Leonardo Veneziano, who is the founder of Sunken Realm Design Company, he really helped to implement a lot of those things.
Wow.
He helped do that. And so and another programmer, we kind of to try to find the ways in which we could make this truly secure and safe for filmmakers, hence the name, the Studio Club. I'm just really glad that you came on board with us.
Yeah, I'm really glad you allowed me into your life, so to speak, and got to know me a little bit, because I think your passion and your vision is just as inspirational. And I
We hope, right? We all want that, don't we?
Oh yeah, and it's very hard for me to meet other artists that are willing to like be as open as think. I've met one other woman that I'm doing a mini documentary on named Fatima Taylor. She's a painter from Ohio, and I told her about you, and I said the two. She's got a Russian Uzbekistan background, but she's very driven, very very strong, type A woman who has a vision, and I think you're similar. And I said, you're going to talk. I pointed her to your Instagram page and stuff, because there's not a lot of women. I don't think there's enough women respected in the art and the creative community. Oh, well, just in that alone. I mean, it's in the business world too. But
it's funny you brought that up, because I posted this recently on Facebook that I'm kind of doing my own little test with Meta AI, the Meta AI on Instagram and Facebook.
Sure.
I'm like, wow, I'm finding that there are some obscure actors or filmmakers who are male, and I can find their information readily through Meta AI, but I'll search for like a celebrated female director or actress, and I can't find. Meta doesn't bring up any data, and I'm like, okay, this is definitely sexist leaning. There's something wrong.
Well, think about all the famous directors. They're all men. Most of them are, or it's like that in all businesses. It seems like it's all white men. Like if you try to find a black artist, like all the black artists here in Cleveland are kind of they're in their own little community, and I'm like, why are you guys all over here by yourselves? And the one girl I'm friends with, she's like, well, who else is going to promote our culture? But I think it's kind of weird.
Right. Well, and that's to your credit too, that you can celebrate women directors. One thing I have noticed is that in the social media sphere, in the internet universe and the internet verse, sometimes I find that I think sometimes there are men who are very uncomfortable with the idea of a woman leading. They're not comfortable with that at all. I've seen it. I've seen it.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
It's unfortunate because there are a lot of very talented women in this business. There's a group called Women in Media, and they are specifically geared toward women crew in the business, and they've really that's a beautiful organization. Film Fatales, I've mentioned Cinefem, Alliance of Women Directors. And they're jam-packed. I mean, they're packed with really talented people who some people have heard of, some people haven't. I think it was Orson Welles who said, movies are like a wife, you should have divorced long ago, but you love her too much. It's like, he said, he has these funny stories, and it's really being a movie maker or filmmaker, however you want to structure it. It's like, it can be a challenge in the sense that you spend a lot of your life, spent a lot of my creative life pursuing the means to make motion pictures. It's not easy to do. It can be daunting. And sometimes, I mean, that's the side of me you haven't seen yet, where I'm just like, oh yeah. There are days like that. We all have. It's like, why am I even doing this? And then you just remember you see someone else's work, you remember your own, you remember what it was like being on set, and you just are like, it does bring a worthwhile quality to everything. And I'm excited at the prospect now, because like I found your picture and I saw the value in it, and I wanted to be a part of that, and we wanted to release it on the platform. And then there's another, documentary, an extended documentary I'm looking at that I saw last November. And there are some other movies, and it's like I said, it was like it's an interesting curating process. I still don't know exactly how streaming is harder and harder to monetize now. People are getting their they're just becoming used to getting their entertainment like for free, or they think it's for free. You pay for an Amazon membership, and you pay for Netflix, and then you just forget about it and you think, I'm getting all this stuff for free.
No, you're not.
Not really. But we were going to talk about that too a little bit, the distribution issues. I mean, Liz Manashel, who was at one time the head of distribution they created a position for her at Sundance Institute. And she did a survey with her partner and published it in Filmmaker magazine to demonstrate how few filmmakers even break even, much less make money. An overwhelming number don't even break even.
Oh, yeah.
And when I told her, well, we were getting, I said we were getting over a million viewing minutes per month on Amazon Prime for 3 months straight. And we were getting a penny per viewing hour, which isn't uncommon. And oh my God, we were making just over $200 a month. And her jaw dropped. And I said, I know, isn't that terrible? And she was like, that's like what some movies are making across all platforms in 3 months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she's talking about like even Sundance filmmaker, very prominent, well-known filmmaker.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I was like, wow, what do you do then? And that was we were already in process of building the platform at that point, and there's more to come, but it's not easy. It's not easy for filmmakers. It's gotten harder in many ways because we don't have the physical media as much anymore.
Yeah.
Affected things. I think one has to become very creative. And the person who probably stands as one of the greatest business people, marketers around that. I mean, Tommy taught me a lot of things too. Tommy taught me a lot of things too about how he marketed the room. Wow. And what he did for that. And I commend him for that. People don't always give him credit.
Would you be interested in? We had talked about breaking this up, maybe in the segments.
Yes, because we've been at this for 2 hours.
Yeah, I know.
This might even be cut in half or something in 2 parts.
But I think maybe if we talked about the distribution process in another segment, if you have time, because you're just like so busy and stuff.
No, I'd love to, because I think anything that helps all of us along in this.
Yeah.
I recently notified an organization and said, hey, I really support what you're doing, but please don't market yourself like you're the first women's platform to do this or that. It's like, that's us. We did that already. Yeah. So please as long as you're not stepping on us or treading on us, hey, we're all in this together, and I think that's a great idea, because I think there's so much more that we can address.
Oh, yeah.
In another segment. There's so much depth to all of this. There are so many layers. And like we were saying, one of the beautiful things about the arts is it isn't one direction, one way. Someone talked about that recently. Steven Spielberg, I didn't even realize that he had tried to get into USC Film School and didn't. And they told him, we don't see a future for you. And he ended up like in Long Beach in a small program at Long Beach University. And he goes on to create the summer blockbuster. It's like,
oh yeah, and I don't think they even had a script for Jaws, did they?
I think there were a lot of issues around the movie. He's about to do some kind of introduction about that, talking about the making of that.
They're re-releasing it this summer.
Because it's 1975. Because it was the 50 year. Can you believe this? That just hit me just now between the eyes. It's the 50-year anniversary. And do you know that the organization that created lobby cards, we created versions of that for Night Rain, for example, lobby cards. I think Jaws was one of the last films. They started in like the late teens, early 20s with lobby cards. And there was an organization responsible for that. And then a Motion Picture Society. And I think Jaws was one of the last ones 50 years ago.
It's crazy. God. And I know my wife is 7 years younger than me. And I bragged to her and I said, I saw this movie in the theater when it came out. And I was like 9 years old. And she's like, oh, it's so she's dying to see it on the big screen because it's one of our favorite movies. And we always see something new in it.
I love that you guys have that together. That is so awesome. And you know what? Please thank her for me, because I'm glad she encouraged you to reach out to me, because she was absolutely right.
Well, I'm paranoid. So I always think, number one, I'm very sensitive to how I approach a woman, because these days people don't always know who they're dealing with. And like I said, I'm serious. I'm too lazy to stalk anybody. I'm just like, ugh.
Well, and again, I mean, I got to say now, what some people call stalking, I'm like, oh, you ain't seen nothing.
Oh no, I've had people stalk me on here. I've had a couple people. Well, I'm not going to say what happened, because there's some people I'm just ignoring what happened, and they've kind of gone away.
Yeah, eventually. Yeah, well, yeah, it depends on the level. Some of them, if they're professionals and they're being paid, they're not just going to go away because they're not doing it for their own emotional gratification. They're doing it for their wallet.
Yeah, I've seen some
There
people
are
say
some of
some
those,
pretty hellacious things about me in the comments on my YouTube channel. I'm like, why would you say something like that?
People, I'd say it is sad. That's the part of the internet. That's the part that, we were talking about the good sides, and that is the unfortunate side that what some people will do is they'll hide behind this perceived anonymity and think I can say anything. I can say things I would never normally say to
exactly.
person. And there's no consequence because they won't know who I am, but there is a consequence because you are still you, even if no one knows it, and you're you and you know about it and other people can see it. And so I don't know, if I think it was Douglas Adams in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy who said the last time something like this happened, this guy came along and said, why can't we all be, love each other and be good to each other? And he got nailed to a tree.
Oh, God. Did he really? And literally got nailed to a tree?
Well, he was talking about that crazy carpenter named Jesus. That was what Douglas Adams in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy was talking about. He was like, the last time something like this happened was, this woman's trying to stop the world from being blown up and, trying to appeal to the better nature of human beings. Yeah. And he said the last time something like this happened, a man was nailed to a tree for saying, why can't we all just be nice to each other?
Well, I think the greatest words came out of the LA riots from the 90s was Rodney King said, why can't we just all get along? And it's always been overlooked. But I'm like, can't we just kind of put all this aside and just, work together, especially artists? I always find it so hard to work with other artists, especially musicians. That's a whole nother story. But
when ego steps in, unfortunately, the best defense against the ego that the ego can't seem to defend itself against, and that's humor.
Oh, that's true.
Bill Murray understood that in his version of The Razor's Edge. He made a remake of it, the one originally starring Tyrone Power and
you're like an encyclopedia of just movies and directors and quotes. My God.
It's swimming around in there.
Yeah, this is
you can't see it now. It's covered by this lovely veil of what people think is goth look, but it's my natural coloring. I just really love. I really have, and I'm a nerd. I guess I'm a nerd. I'm a movie nerd.
Oh, I know. It's great being a nerd. And like, if you could see my messy studio behind the camera,
I love your studio. I find it the most charming. I just find it absolutely adorable.
My moon, the battery died.
Oh no, it was glowing before, folks. I can attest to that. I saw it. No, I love the live on the air and the Bill Murray back there. Bill Murray, I mentioned Bill Murray.
Yeah, I love Bill Murray, and I love Walter Matthau and Jack Lemmon. I've been fans of them for years, and I got some of my paintings down here.
Oh, look at that. Oh yeah. I love it. I think the charm of it is like what you clearly put into your environment. It's just wonderful. It's wonderful. And clearly, I don't know, maybe you don't express it as effusively as I do with the same histrionics, maybe.
No, I'm very conservative and quiet.
You're really passionate about what you are interested in and what you enjoy. I mean, I
can be around the right people. I pretty much keep it to myself. I'm very closeted about it. If you met me on the street, you would never know. I have very eccentric sides to me that very few people know about.
Those are the best ones. I know,
but I don't. I have to put the mask on to let it come out. Or
it's like you've got this quiet nature, but then.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm not schizophrenic or anything, but I'm always afraid to let. There's a few people that know the real me, and my wife's one of them. And but there's some friends of mine that that know what I'm like, and sometimes it doesn't come out unless I've had a few beers and I don't drink anymore. So. Rarely have any alcohol, but
I have like a half a dirty martini once a year on.
Yeah. I used to drink quite a bit, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. This has been great. This has been awesome. I'm really so glad we're talking. And if you have ideas, I know you're really busy. I appreciate the time you've
given. We'll do it. Let's not wait too long. Is my thought. Let's not let the embers burn out completely.
Okay, that's great.
Let's ride on this, and let's maybe think about when the next time is we could do this. Gosh, I might have some really good news by the next time we do this, depending on
hopefully so. Yeah.
Maybe I'll have a lot more to report.
Yeah, keep me informed on that. And I've got a medical procedure, so I'm going to be kind of out of things at the end of June. So
the monks and I said a special prayer for that during my.
I told you about that, didn't I? Oh, that's right. You went to the monastery.
Mm-hmm. I went to the monastery I was there last week, and I did ask for prayers for your.
Oh, thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I found this. That really means that really touched me so much that you even thought of that. And I've always dreamed of kind of becoming a monk to get away from
monks
the world.
Are cool. Did you ever play the video game Heretic?
No.
The little monk. They're like good and bad. Sounds like they're doing some kind of like Latin mixed with God knows what kind of Darth Vader breathing they're doing.
Yeah.
Heretic and what was the Hexen and Heretic, I think were the name. I don't
know what that is.
Particular video games. They were video games with like freaky monks. My friend who was a theology major.
Yeah.
My friend Len turned me on to that. But I can't spend too much time playing video games, though I respect them, but I can't spend too much time on them because I'm doing all these other things all the time.
I've got the original Pong in my closet and the first Sega system. My brother sent me those for Christmas when I was a kid.
Oh, yeah.
But, I used to play.
Came early on. Atari. Do you remember Atari?
Yep.
I remember Atari. Pong. Yeah. I can say that I played Pong as a very young person.
You did play it too?
I did.
Yeah. I've still got
dating myself. Yes.
My brother.
I think you're in the Gen X category. I'm pretty sure.
I think that's what I am.
You're still in the Gen X.
Yeah.
Gen Xers are just cool. We're just cool.
Yeah.
Gen Xers are cool.
We have a foot in the digital world and a foot in the analog world, and we've seen so much between wars and politics and art and entertainment.
We're cartilage. We understand the boomers. We understand where the boomers are coming from. I mean, they came up during the best economic period of this country, post-World War II.
Yeah, exactly.
Never has happened before or since that, one country, the United States in this case, inherits over half the world's wealth all at once. Mm-hmm. And you have this incredible economy and this incredible period in history where just everything is there for the taking and the making. And that's the boomer generation. And then you have the millennials and the Gen Y and the Gen Z. And it's like, and they've struggled, and they've seen some of the most difficult economic periods and perpetual wars and things like that. So and we're the cartilage between the two. We kind of understand it from both perspectives. And it's interesting to be Gen X. It is. I think
it really is.
I think the Gen Xers can really do a great deal right now to help the world, actually, because
that's a good point. I think we could do a lot.
Connective tissue. We're connective tissue. We were made to like, be understanding of all these different points of view. It's like and try to communicate that somehow in the midst of like the sky is falling. It's on fire, but at the same time, it's like, no, wait, let's try to get a perspective on this.
Well, that's just what I mean. There's so many people out there just rattling, stirring things up. Let's step out of the muck.
Well, like I said, I was down there, and I'm not decrying that certain things were taking place.
Oh, I believe
think that was certainly the norm, and not when I was down there. Certainly, even by Tuesday, a lot of that had already resolved itself, and there certainly is vandalism, which I think is tragic because costly. And I really would like to see more money go to the poor and go to the homeless, and help people and go to education and go to roads and the things that in the 50s we took for granted because people were paying 40% of their money towards taxes and things like that at that time. And I'm not just talking about the average person, I'm talking about even the wealthy they were paying their share too. And I mean, I know Peter Buffett. I've met him and spoken with him, and I think there are some billionaires I've even met in person who would like to see more of that. They try, and then things don't go where they should, and we need a lot of help right now. We need to keep making stuff. That's what we do as artists, because like you said, otherwise it just can be overwhelming. Because it's like that would be my thought for everybody. It's like, make stuff, keep making stuff. Make stuff, because you're not going to change the entire world, but you can make a difference as an individual.
Make a start towards a better world.
Make sure to recognize the value of every person, even people we don't necessarily like or get along with or whatever. That's okay.
Sure.
That's okay too. We can still love them.
True.
Still love them even if we don't want to be anywhere near them. That's you too, stalkers. I love you. Just don't want to be around you. But it's hard. This is how we know we have to talk. It's hard to say goodbye. It's hard
I just love this.
Where's the end point? It's like there's just so much more there. There is.
I'm just gonna. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it because it's just so. I love editing, but I'm gonna have to figure out. Probably chop this up into 2 pieces.
Yeah, just chop it up to a couple of pieces, and we'll go from there.
Yeah,
just go from there. There'll be more to come. I hope I'll have some really good news from you soon.
Oh yeah. Let's hear some good news about your production.
We need that.
Oh yeah,
I'm ready to. I have that hankering. It's like I'm like, oh my God, what more can I do? I just want to be back in it. It's been a while, and I want to be back in it.
Oh yeah. So talented, and you're so passionate. So
thank you.
I think good things. I think even if you don't become famous or whatever, you've already put so much wonderful stuff out in the universe. I mean, what more could you ask for? So many people just dream of doing what we do. I had
one person say, "My God, you're like my favorite celebrity person." I'm like, friend. I'm like, me? They're like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I don't think of myself that way. Someone else was, oh, you're not famous at all. I'm like, oh, okay, well, it's a matter of opinion, I guess. It's okay. Yeah, no, I think it's better to leave that as a very leave that where it is. It's not the prime directive. It's not the prime directive. Making stuff has to be the prime directive.
I had a friend of mine say, you don't know how lucky you are to be an artist. I always wanted to be an artist, and I just could never do it. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I think of myself as lucky, but I guess there's some people that never tried.
For artists, luckier than they sometimes realize. I think that when it comes to being an artist, it's a way of seeing, and it's a way of living.
Yeah.
And I think it was in Raise High the Roof Beam Carpenters and Seymour, an introduction by J.D. Salinger. When
it's like an encyclopedia. This is just amazing.
Someone asks the character Buddy Glass about his brother Seymour, and says, well, they're all debating his nature, his character. Finally, not knowing that this is his brother, and he says, Seymour was a goddamn poet, because that's very Salinger, goddamn poet. He was a goddamn poet. You would even if he'd never written a stitch of poetry, all you'd have to do is look at the back of his ear, and you would know he was a poet. I remember reading that shortly before I started performing poetry.
Wow.
And I remember that very well because
you could just get that essence, you mean, because he's so ensconced.
I think it has a lot to do with who you are and how you live and how you see things and what we were made for. I think a lot of people think of an artist as the stuff that we do. You write, so you're a writer. You paint, so you're a painter. But like I was describing, even as a 2-year-old, there was something inside of me who knew already, this is in me.
Mm-hmm.
It's who I am. This is in me. And if it's in there, then I think the goal is to bring it out of there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And not just for ourselves. I mean, it's for other people too.
Oh, it's wonderful.
And I think that's I think it's exceptionally important to, it's almost a responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
That what you're given, you're not given what you're given to keep it.
Yeah.
The irony, you're given what you're given to give it.
To express it and to put it out there into the universe. Yeah.
I think that matters the most, and the rest of it, the fame thing can be important when you're wanting to command a salary or sell something. Sure. But a lot of it, I was just talking with a friend, it has its downsides. It has its downsides. It has its downsides. And he doesn't see many upsides. I think there are a few upsides as an artist. It might help you get work. It might help you earn more money. But it definitely, you can become a victim of your own image, and that's dangerous.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It can really,
especially as an artist, because you want that to be, you want to continue to, it's got to be authentic. And for authenticity's sake, one has to be very careful with these cultivated images.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It can be toxic, I think.
Well, so do what we can. Whatever we can do, we do. That's it.
Well, this has been awesome, Jeanne. Thanks so much. And I'll leave you with this. The little animal behind you there, or whatever that is. Yeah, that's the color of my
for one of my granddaughters.
That's the color of my sleepers when I was
You're
2
kidding?
and 3. Yeah.
Oh, it's kind of a turquoise or teal color?
Yeah, it's not. I don't know what I said it was, but that's the exact color. I had an Easter bunny that was the same color.
Were the feet like kind of like a white?
Yes, yeah, they had like a little texture to them, so I couldn't fall or slip or whatever you said. Yeah,
mine was kind of a pale yellow. Mine was a pale yellow.
Really? Okay.
My sleeper. Yeah.
How funny. How funny we remember that stuff.
It's amazing how you, and I mean, when we just go, that's full circle, because we were talking about when you sneak down to watch the movies.
Oh, yeah.
You know, something's brewing when you're sneaking down to watch the movies that you're not even supposed to be watching.
For me, it was Johnny Carson, because my parents always stayed up and watched Johnny Carson and stuff like that. And it was Big Chuck and Hula.
Brilliant, too. Brilliant comic.
Oh, I miss him a lot. He was great. Awesome.
He made Suzanne Summers. I was thinking about that recently. He made Suzanne Summers a star.
Did he really?
Oh, yeah. She came to Hollywood with a book of poetry, a book of poems of hers that were published. And she was on, I think it was the Paramount lot, doing an audition and possibly a callback for like a bit role. And he saw her in the commissary and said, "What a beautiful young woman." And she said, "Well, I got this book of poetry and I just got my first call back and didn't even know what that was initially. Had to find out what that meant." And he's like, "You're just so charming. You should come on my show." And that's what got her the gig on Three's Company.
Really?
Yeah. Johnny Carson was a star maker.
Oh, I had no idea that he even, I'm sure he had been on his show, but I had no idea he got her start.
He got her started.
Wow.
Yep.
Now, did she have to sleep with him to do that?
Not to my knowledge, no. I think he was that kind of producer.
Oh, he wasn't that kind of guy? Okay.
I don't know a great deal about Johnny Carson. I know there may have been some things spoken about him, but I don't think in that case that was the case. I think that was still a time when you could still... Now, of course, there was the story of A.C. Lyles and Yvette Vickers. But the interesting part was A.C. Lyles actually did, when he did Casting Couch, apparently he actually did deliver, though. So he didn't say, "I'll do this for you," and then not do it. But there have been all kinds of interesting tales throughout Hollywood.
That would be an interesting topic to tackle. I've heard all kinds of horror stories.
And that links to distribution, because the reality is the way some people got their start are not the way people would imagine.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've heard some real crazy stories.
You know, I mean, I might have had an Academy Award if I'd been willing to do certain things by now. It wasn't on the basis of my talent, certainly not my writing or acting capability, other capabilities, I suppose, but I wasn't willing to go there.
There's some people on the big screen, you wonder, how did they get there? Men and women, like they're...
And in some cases, it's like, I think it was Judi Dench. And Judi Dench is one of the greatest actors of our time, quite frankly. And she has been known to say things like... sometimes it's just being in the right place at the right time. With all her talent, she has said that too. Yeah. It's hard to know. It's hard to know why things hit, how they hit the target.
Oh, sure. Even
in cases where people do sell something out to get where they are, but the public still has to accept them. I mean, it's a strange thing. You can't really, again, going full circle, it's very hard to predict the public. It's very hard to predict.
It really is.
But all the more reason why it's best to just keep doing what you do, because I mean, Mozart died in an unmarked grave. He was thrown into an unmarked grave. He didn't have the money for a proper burial. Wow. And now he's one of the most celebrated composers of all time.
Yeah.
You know, it's like Van Gogh. Poor Van Gogh. Poor Vincent. You know. Van Gogh. He was ahead of his time, I guess.
There's all kinds of, and that'd be another topic. I mean, maybe we should just start a podcast. The Jeanne and Pete podcast.
We could go. I mean, because all of these things they carry a value.
Yeah.
You know, it's just. I think that in the end, you have to really let things be what they are. Mm-hmm. Let people be who they are. I've so enjoyed this, Peter. Really.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's a great time.
It's so fun talking with you. You have a great droll sense of humor. It reminds me of some of the British sense of humor.
Oh, yeah. I was raised on Monty Python, and the wit of the Beatles and all that stuff. And I'll leave you with this. I went in to get some x-rays done a couple of weeks ago. And this, x-ray tech comes out, young lady, about half my age. And there's this big white machine. And I go, is that the machine that goes bing? And I don't know if you've ever seen The Meaning of Life with Monty Python.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
So there's an operating scene with John Cleese, and he's like, bring out the machine that goes bing.
Bring out the machine that goes bing.
And it comes out and it goes bing. And the girl goes, what? And I'm like,
I know, they don't know.
So I pull it up on my iPhone, and this drives my wife crazy. She's like, please don't pull it up on your iPhone. I don't care. This girl's looking at me like, what are you doing? And like, I'm like this old man to her. I'm like, here's the scene. And she's like, uh-huh. And the thing goes bing. And she's like, oh, okay, great. Okay, step over there, and I'll step behind the lead wall. And she just completely blew me off.
Some of the young ones, though, they get it. Some of the young ones get it every once in a while. Some of those young ones who history is important to, I gotta give them a lot of credit where credit's.
Yeah.
Some of that is making a comeback. Oh, Monty Python.
Yeah.
In fact, I want to mention that too before I go, that in an interview, Terry Gilliam said, if we were to come up today, Monty Python, we never would have made it. He said, in our day, everything, it was like a pyramid, and you had all this talent at the bottom and a few suits at the top, and they were willing to take their time with you and nurture you and allow you to grow. He said, now it's the opposite. Now you have a little bit of talent at the bottom and all the suits at the top, and it's very, very difficult. He said,
oh, yeah.
Inverse. It's almost the inverse. And I thought about that. And he said that like close to 20 years ago. So it's gone even more difficult now. So we're but the good news about that is that because it's so daunting and because everything is hard, and here's a good way to leave things, because it's so daunting, because everything is difficult, you might as well do what you love now.
Yeah.
Because everything's going to be hard.
And that's exactly what I've done. I just think, screw it. I'm just going to do what I want.
Do what you're called to do. Everybody. Do it. Everybody's got is given a calling. Do what you're called to do.
Yeah,
do what
exactly.
You're called to do. Be like Frodo. It may not be easy, but it'll be very, very rewarding.
Yeah.
I swear, I can speak from experience. It will be rewarding. It won't be easy. But
it is. It is. Well, awesome. This has been great. Thanks so much. And if you come up with ideas, just send me a text or an email, and we'll just go from there.
Yeah, we'll probably. I want to say definitely before the summer's out and before August or something.
Okay. That sounds perfect.
We'll do it. And please, I hope everything goes well.
Oh, thank you.
Since you brought it up, I hope it goes well. And I know that those wonderful monks on the mountain in Big Sur, we're all rooting for you.
Wow. I just you can't even begin. I'm too tired right now to express myself coherently, but it touches me that you even thought of that. That's just amazing. A total stranger is having monks chant for my well-being. It's like who?
And thank the monks too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Thank you, monks.
Thank you, monks. Thank you, Peter, for doing this, for inviting me.
Oh, sure.
You, and I've really enjoyed it.
Awesome. I thanks so much for being on. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. See you soon. Talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.